All right, let's see if this is working. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Hello, hello. All right. All right, perfect, perfect. We're on. We are on. What is up, y'all? Today we got an exciting game for us. Well, maybe not as exciting as some other games, but we got the Eagles playing with the New York Giants. And Eagles are favored in this game, but we shall see if anything could happen. An upset, we never know, right? Um, we never know. So as we get started here, I'm just gonna make sure everything is working real quick. Stream looks healthy. I see the Smitties dropped a question. I'll get to questions in a second. Let me just kind of get orientated here with everything. So welcome, welcome. Drop any questions in the chat. I hope y'all had a good week 5, and hopefully you guys are winning your games and enjoying football at the same time. So let me see what this first question is. The Smitty says, he says, update, you're in a 2-quarterback flex league. In 2 weeks, by grabbing all the QBs off the waiver, you turn Browning into Rashi Rice and Rattler plus Marks into Breeze Hall. Dude, what? That is also start 2 running backs, Monty, Henderson, White, and Hall. Well, congratulations on those moves. Those are maximizing on the value at the right time. So congratulations on that. So let's see. Start 2 running backs. Okay, so David Montgomery, Henderson, Rashad White, Brees Hall. I assume this is a PPR league. I don't remember what it was off the top, but I would say just my gut feel is Shard White and Brees Hall. But let me double check these matchups to see how I feel about that. Let me see how I feel about that. So we got Detroit playing Kansas City, who's middle of the pack. We got Denver for the Jets in London or in the foreign land, Europe. So that matchup's all right, but not super strong. You got, and then Rashad White's the only other one that's playing San Francisco, who's a little better. So especially if it's PPR, I do like Rashad White to be able to perform again. I mean, he's familiar with the team. They're familiar with the offense. It's not like they're plug and playing somebody new. He performed well, so I'll roll with him. And Brees Hall is getting that usage, so uh, I would say those two. The only reason I'm hesitant on Montgomery, you could play him, but I feel like he's a little more touchdown dependent than the other two, right? And so if I'm guessing it was a PPR league, Brees Hall and Rashard White get usage in the pass game, so that's why I would lean towards that direction. But if you want to go with Montgomery, you can. That's just how I would view things. But let me know your thoughts this video. Appreciate that comment. What's up, Deshaun? Let's see. Got offered CMC, McBride, and Ladd for Puka. What? Running backs are Gibbs, Dowdle, White, and Bucky. Receivers are Sutton, Godwin, Puka, and Ceedee. Okay. Let me absorb this for a second. So you're giving up Puka, so you're slotting in CD and Sutton instead of Puka and CD. So there's a minus differential there. If you didn't have CMC, you're playing Gibbs and Bucky, which I got to, and then you're playing either in your flex. Well, Dowdle has high value now, and Rashad White has high value now, but not forever unless things change in that backfield. And you're flexing one of them and Godwin. But if you make this trade, you're then playing Gibbs, Bucky, and CMC in your flex. And then, yeah, I think you're coming up on this one, and especially if you're weak at tight end. So let me know if like McBride is going to be an upgrade to your tight end. And so here's where I'm at with your trade, right? So you right now have let's foresee CD being healthy and you don't do this trade, right? You're rolling out Puka and CD, and then in your flex would probably be Sutton if you have a flex, right? Solid, very solid, right? Um, and when you look at your stack, if you take this trade, you're then gonna be Tyler Warren's your tight end right now. Okay, so there's depth there, but it's not like a super plus differential. There is probably a plus differential by putting McBride in for Tyler Warren, but it's not, that's all hearsay right now with where we're at. So if you do take this trade, then we'll take McBride as the depth, right? That's not necessarily going to be your weekly or your there might be a playoff long-term season McBride over Tyler Warren, but for now we'll just call that depth rather than a plus differential. Okay, it's good to have depth, right? Because you could always flip something later down the line as well. But for now we'll call it depth and like an added piece. But in terms of what's going to be slotted into your roster, when you put in CMC, Gibbs, and then Bucky into the flex versus Sutton in the flex, there's a plus differential in that flex spot. You do lose when you lose Puka and you have Sutton and CD in your wide receivers, your flex position would in the long term, it's a lot weaker, right? Because you got more pieces to play with, right? Even though you lose, I think, downgrading from Puka to Sutton in that position, in that wide receiver 2 position, I think you end up gaining more. But that's how I would do that, Deshaun. If you're looking at this trade. For me, off the high level numbers, it does look like you're coming out on top with this. But I would double check that my estimations of Bucky projecting to be basically more useful than Sutton in the flex comparatively to losing Puka. I hope that makes sense. And what I'm trying to convey here. Let me put this user in a timeout. This damn spam. But let me know if that confused you or helped you, Deshaun. Appreciate the question. I can circle back if you got anything later, but I'll move to Frizzle. How's it going? It's going well for me. Hope you too. You need running back help. You got offered Javonte, Ridley, and Kraft for CD. But should I get greedy and ask for Javonte and Genty? He owns Chase Brown, Bucky, and Travion as well. Okay, so you need running back help. You're welcome, Deshaun. You're welcome. Any likes, much appreciated. All likes, much appreciated. It helps us. Appreciate you, Deshaun. So Frizzle, so you need running back help. So what I'm interpreting from this is that you really do have to take a trade in order for the longevity of your season and the current dynamics of your team. I'm interpreting as this: you really need running back. So your running backs are Brees, Woody, Haskell. Oh, okay, yeah. You definitely need to do something. So you're giving up CD, and he's offering Javonte, Ridley, and Kraft. So I think you can ask, yeah, if you're good at tight end and wide receiver otherwise, right? Like if Ridley and Kraft are not going to be automatic starts, kind of like I was talking about Deshaun, right? Like if is Kraft going to be like you're inputting him into your lineup and you're going to gain from it because right now, let's say, you're streaming every week and you're starting Zach Ertz or whatnot, because then if there's positive points to be gained there too, that can be considered within the trade as well versus just the running backs. But if you're already solid at tight end and wide receivers and these guys don't do anything for you, then yes, I would look into a way to package maybe 2 running backs, like you said, for CD. And I think on the greedy end, like you said, obviously Genty will be great. But if I'm sitting in that position, that means I'm going to be playing Bucky and Chase Brown or Bucky and Travion. And right now, Bucky's injured. So, like, I'm playing Chase Brown and Travion, and I don't physically want to do that, right? But if, you aim for a different package, like like Javonte and Bucky or Javonte and Chase Brown, I might be more willing to do that because then I still have um, some solid wiggle room to play with. But if you take my top 2 running backs while Bucky's injured, then I don't know if he would necessarily go for that. Yo, Hippo AI, I'll get to you in a sec. Frizzle says you'd start Mason Taylor and your wide receivers. You have Drake, Pittman, Keon, JMO, Luther, and Coker. Who's Drake? Oh, Drake London. Okay. Drake London and Michael Pittman are your solid there. So yeah, he does nothing. Mason Taylor versus Kraft. Okay, there's an upgrade at Kraft there too. So you do get a plus differential on Javonte and Kraft, but Mason Taylor's not projected to do poorly. So yeah, maybe you could target 2 running backs and flip it back and be like, hey, I'd prefer something like this, but I'm open to this and this, right? Maybe because Bucky's injured, he might be willing to let him go. Maybe he'd be willing to let go of Javonte plus Chase Brown, and you could try to take that gamble that offense is going to change with new quarterback. Probably not, but it's just a thought. Right. So that's what I would be thinking about. I don't know. You can try for Genty, but I don't think he's gonna give that. And I think you're solid enough at your wide receivers and tight end to try to get 2 running backs to add depth to that position. Hopefully that helps. Frizzle, let me know if not. Hippo, appreciate you. Would you start the Colts tight end, so Tyler Warren or Hunter Henry? I think what's his name? Tyler Warren is probably, just without looking at matchup, who I would choose. But let me take a glimpse at the matchups real quick just to double check that I'm not overlooking anything. But Tyler Warren, he's a rookie. He's getting usage every single week. He doesn't necessarily have crazy upside that's come out yet. But I don't foresee Hunter Henry being like that. So let's look at these matchups really quick just to see. So we got Tyler Warren's playing Arizona. I think Arizona's defense is not bad against tight ends, as in like, what's it called? You can play your tight ends against Arizona, and then Hunter Henry is playing New Orleans. Yeah. I'd play Warren like pretty confidently. Um, safe to say after I looked at the matchups, he's already projected to be better, and that's what I would do. Hippo, hope that helps. You're welcome, Frizzle. Appreciate any likes that anybody could drop. Appreciate all your guys' questions. Um, so July, are you next? Yeah, July. Oh, his is 1-4. Frizzle says, and you're 2-3. Yeah. You guys should probably make trades then, right? You guys would be willing to make trades since you guys are both in losing, and you can't just sit on the same teams hoping for that. July says trade JSN and Achan for Josh Jacobs and CD. I PPR, PPR, I assume. You know, I'm I uh, I think that's preference for you, and what I would look at, and here I'll kind of help you look at it right now, is like honestly, July, that trade is pretty even. It's just kind of like who are you higher on for the rest of the season, right? And we always have to consider, is CD, how long is his injury? Obviously, they didn't put him on. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. They did not put him on IR, which signals that they think he should be back relatively soon. So let's just kind of like take that as a one game thing, or take that out of the equation and compare them, versus each other. What I would look at here, if you are unsure on the trade, you know, on these players, what I then boil it down to is schedule, right? Um, because if somebody's willing to make the trade with you, then and you kind of view it as a coin flip, right? Like you kind of say like, oh, um, you know, maybe I'm better here, maybe I'm weaker here, and you're not sure, and both, you know, what it then comes down to for me is schedule, right? So then I look at the players one at a time. So in this trade, you're looking at, let's say, Achan first, right? And you pull up the schedule for the playoffs in the final weeks, and they're lined up with like the Buccaneers in the second to last week, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Jets, the Saints, as they're kind of like final 5, 6 games. So that's a pretty decent schedule, right? Nothing too scary about that. And then the other player on that side of the trade, right, is JSN. So then you would look at Seattle's um, schedule. And when I pull up Seattle's schedule and I look at the last like 6-ish games, you got the Panthers, the Rams, the Colts, the Falcons, the Vikings. So the schedule's okay there, but it's a little tough, right? So um, I just kind of make that as a mental note to then say like, I don't know if you're receiving uh, these players, or you are uh, give them, what does it say? So you're trading these guys away, right? Um, and or maybe you're receiving them. I'm not exactly sure, but so I would say JSN has like a slightly difficult schedule. It's not impossible, and then Achan has a pretty good schedule, right? And then now if I pull up uh Josh Jacobs' schedule, so the Green Bay Packers, um, their schedule, what does that look like? That looks like the Ravens, the Bears, Broncos, Bears, Lions, Vikings. So they're kind of half and half too, but some pretty good matchups uh, during those last games. So that one's um, hold on, let me put this person in a timeout. Comparable to Achan's schedule. So like let's call that a wash. Um, but you'd have to do a little bit deeper research than this surface level I'm doing right now, because I'm just high level. I know the tiers of the defense per the running game versus the pass, but I'm not 100% certain. Like I would take more time, right, if I were to actually do this right before I do the trade. And then CeeDee Lamb um, is on the Cowboys, so the Cowboys schedule. Let's say the last weeks: Commanders, Chargers, Vikings, Lions, Chiefs, Eagles. So going to be competitive games. So I like that. I like that schedule, right? So you know that's what I would look at off of a surface level. It looks like CD and Jacobs' schedule would be a little better, and I would envision because the uh what's it called, game scripts for how the Cowboys would want to play. They're going to be potentially scoring a lot, right? And how Green Bay plays. Um, they like to run the ball and play defense, right? And then get their opportunities to the air when they can. I think you might have a slight edge, whoever's getting the Jacobs and CD side, but I would look deeper, into that analysis I did rather than, how surface level it was. But I hope that makes sense, July. Let me know if I'm making sense on how I would look at things when I view trades as kind of a coin flip. I really kind of look at the strength of the rest of the schedule for the rest of the seasons. Like Josh Jacobs has already gone on by, right? Who's gone on by, and things like that. All those things for the rest of the schedule plays into my decision on that. So that's what I would look at. Let me know if that makes sense, July, or not. Appreciate a like or any other thoughts. So Hippo says, would I rather trade Hunter or Tyler Warren? Still trying to get rid of Emeka Egbuka. Wait, well, let me put this user in a timeout. So would I rather trade Hunter or Tyler Warren? When you say Hunter, is that Travis Hunter, or what do you mean by that? I'm a little confused uh at this question. Or is this Hunter Henry? Um oh, maybe it's Hunter Henry because you're asking, oh, Hunter Henry. I'd rather keep Tyler Warren than Hunter Henry, but Tyler Warren probably has higher trade value. And so what you're trying to capitalize on Ibuka's ceiling right now, or trade value, is what I'm understanding. And then what are you trying to get in return, Hippo? Are you trying to package these two together to get, like, Puka Nakua? Are you trying to package these two together to get an RB? Okay. Okay. Um, so then, yeah, then you're packaging like Emeka plus uh Hunter Henry to get an RB, is what I'm assuming. Um, yeah, so then you have three running backs and one is injured. Okay, yeah, well, if you're deep at wide receiver, and Emeka Egbuka is like, a, a flip opportunity, right? Like you can um get some value for him, then yeah, you would probably, from what I'm understanding, is try to package Hunter Henry plus uh Emeka Egbuka to get somebody, and then negotiate up to Tyler Warren if they say no. Um, if they're weak at uh tight end. Um, so that's what I'm understanding you're trying to do. So you have Jordan Anderson and Wan'Dale Robinson to replace Ibuka. Ooh. Um, shoot. How who are your three running backs then? Because going from Ibuka to Jordan Addison or Wan'Dale is a pretty big downgrade to replace them, unless you're gonna like try to package, let's say, Tyler Tyler Warren plus Ibuka, then pick up a wide receiver two, like a Chris Olave, you know, I mean, I can't even remember the range off the top of my head. Pittman, somebody who's lower. So you have Barkley, Pacheco, and Aaron Jones. Oh man, okay. Do you have target teams in mind um for who you'd be looking to trade with? Because yeah, Abuka, if we're gonna trade Abuka plus like Tyler Warren, let's say that's pretty good value. So maybe you can get an RB2 and a wide receiver 2 in that trade to then put Barkley with somebody and then have that as a little bit more running or wide receiver depth. Because if I'm being honest, you know, Addison, he's great, but he's always been like, what's the word? Boom or bust, right? He's been it, it's been a lot of good games, but you're playing roll the dice sometimes. You're kind of gambling sometimes. And Wan'Dale Robinson hasn't proved anything yet, so that's a pretty big downgrade, right? So I have someone who has good running backs and have no wide receivers. Okay. Um. So, hmm. I guess here. Go ahead and drop the roster if you want to look at it. Let me walk you through a few different styles of trades on how I would look at this, right? Is, you know, if somebody has a bunch of running backs but no wide receivers, they might be willing to trade two running backs for the two players you traded, right? But you have to look at your roster build to see what you need. And if you're giving up a Buka and you're going to be playing Addison every week, you kind of need another wide receiver to be able to switch that if that value doesn't maintain over the course of the year. So if I pull up some ranking charts real quick, okay, so like you're giving up a Buka who is a top 5 player. You're giving up Tyler Warren who's a top caliber player, right? So you should be able to land um two reasonable players uh with this. So you can try to take the two running backs, but you're still weak at wide receiver, and then you could try to play the waiver wire. But what I would be more looking to do if I were in your position, I'd be looking to find people who have depth on their bench at both the wide receiver and the running back position, not necessarily like, as good as like let's say Bucky Irving depth, but let's drop it a tier and get both see if there's somebody who's got players on their bench, right, where they would be willing to consolidate a bench player plus one of their starters into Emeka Ibuka, right? That way they're upgrading and they're not leaving points on the bench, but you can capitalize off those points on the bench. Let me see. You say James Cook, Kenneth Walker, DJ Moore, Rashid Shaheed, Kelsey, Flexus T. Higgins, Jerry Judy, and yeah. Okay, so this could work. This definitely could work, right? So um you could target, let's see. Oh wait, but they only have two running backs, so they're probably not going to give up that running back, right? Either James Cook or Kenneth Walker, unless I'm misunderstanding, because I'm not going to give up Kenneth Walker to slot in Tyler Algier, right? Um, so you would want either James Cook or Kenneth Walker off this team, but this person might not have enough depth at the uh, at that position. Um, unless you sell high, like Pacheco hits something and you sell him high, but I don't foresee that as something something happening. Let me know if I'm off base there, but let me kind of continue this thought process for you, right? So if you look at all the other teams in the league, especially teams who might be 3-2, 2-3, 1-4, whatever, who are not 5-0 or 4-1, they may be willing to make some moves. So like some examples, let me change this. So since you're looking for a running back, we'll go on the 2025 season. Somebody might be willing to move off of let's say like a Chuba Hubbard. I hate this that I'm about to say this out loud. Ramondre Stevenson, Jalen Warren, um, somebody in that kind of range, right, where they might have that guy on their bench or their flex, right, and then as well that they're either benching or flexing, they have a wide receiver who is like, let's say in that range of uh, Chris Olave, DeVonta Smith, Tedero McMillan, um, kind of in that range where they're either flexing, that wide receiver, or that running back, and then that person would be willing to give up their flex and a bench asset to consolidate for Emeka Ibuka. Because at this point you're just trying to get you're just trying to get solid number twos, right? You're going to give up a solid number one player and try to break that player into two solid between borderline 1 to 2, right? On the high end, maybe like Zay Flowers. Like let's look at some of my buy low guys, right? Like Zay Flowers might be somebody you could target. DK Metcalf. But that's how I would kind of look at it. Does that make sense, Hippo? Or let me know if I'm off base there. If it was helpful, appreciate any thoughts back or alike. Bob, how are you, Bob? So you got Sutton, Myers, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift in a PPR. Your flex, pick one. Also Pitts or Taylor. Who is Taylor? Mason Taylor. Okay, probably Mason Taylor. So Sutton is Cortland Sutton. Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, PPR in the flex. All right, so for me, off the initial top, it's between Swift and Sutton, but let me look at the matchups to double check that. So we got Sutton's playing the Jets, so he's going to draw Sauce Gardner. So he might be a little bit, I don't want to, he's going to be followed, right? So like when you're playing Sauce Gardner, what you're going to hope for is like how George Pickens did it last week, that you just you get one play on him right for the touchdown, or maybe you get a few passes. He gives you a few underneath and you could score. So I don't think his upside is all that high in this matchup. Let's see. We got Keenan Allen. Who are they playing? They are playing Miami, which should be able to score some points there. So between those two, I might lean Keenan Allen. And then let's see. We got who do we got? We got the last one was DeAndre Swift. And let's see. DeAndre Swift. They are playing. Who are they playing? Was it Washington off the top of my head? They are playing Washington. Okay. I think Swift is probably your safest option. And like I would have said Keenan Allen a little while ago, but that offense has all of a sudden that offense has all of a sudden looked really weird, right? Really bad. So hold on, let me fix this mic. Yeah, that offense in what's it called? The Chargers has kind of looked off. So um I think, you know, if you're projected to win, I would say uh for sure Swift is your best. If you need a little bit more upside, I would go with Keenan Allen. But uh yeah, it would be between those two for me. Sutton is probably the best out of this, you know, out of this group in terms of skill. It's just that matchup for me is a little scary. Um, you know, he's going to be shadowed by Sauce Gardner. So uh, that's just how I do with that. Let me know if that helped or not, Bob. Hope that helped. Appreciate you. Let me know. Okay, so as we wait for some more questions to roll in, thank you so much for everybody who's dropped questions. All your questions, drop them in the chat. We got a good game coming up that we can get started on, everybody. Hopefully, uh, this is a good game. We don't know. It could be you know, the tush push trying to survive another week. Push them through. Oh, Kyle Pitts or Mason Taylor. Um, that's a good question. Let me look at Kyle Pitts' matchup. Uh, Mason Taylor is a bit interesting because we're looking at that same matchup, right? But we were just talking about Sauce Gardner being shadowed. So a lot of times, uh, or Sauce Gardner shadowing, sorry. And then on the other side of the ball, you have Patrick Surtain, um, who's probably gonna be with Garrett Wilson, right? So when these type of things happen, um, and the number one option is uh, you know, for lack of a better word, more highly looked at in the offense, especially with the top corners. A lot of times the second and third options get more looks, so maybe more looks for Breece Hall and Mason Taylor. So for that matchup, even though uh, Denver, you know, is a scary defense, I wouldn't necessarily downgrade um, downgrade them. Now let me look at Atlanta is playing Buffalo at home. So I think he will get some usage there just because Buffalo, when I say he, Kyle Pitts, right, um, will probably get some usage there because of, uh, you know, Buffalo being able to typically score um, a good amount. So if I were to pick, um, I would say Kyle Pitts is probably guaranteed a little safer of a floor. So if you're projected negative game script, um, or sorry, if you're projected to win, he might be safer. I personally would play Taylor in this situation, but it does come with a little bit more risk as Denver's defense can stop an offense. Right? They are good. So I personally would play Taylor, but I would play him knowing that it's a little more risk. So if you're risk adverse or you don't want to chase the upside, then I think Pitts might be safer. I hope that helped. Bob, let me know if it did or did not. And appreciate any likes or extra comments. You're welcome. You're welcome, Bob. So we got the game underway, and as more comments and questions roll in, we can take a look at what we got going. So it looks like Philly's going to take the first drive. And we got a pass to Dallas Goedert on on third down. So I'm a little late into this game, but we got a fourth down. So the Eagles will be punting off of their first drive. All right, all right. So while we do wait for this, let's get some let's get some analysis going since it's going to be a field goal try. We'll get some analysis going right after this. So Jake Elliott's 4th down, kicking the field goal, and it is good. Field goal is good for Elliott. All right. All right. All right. So we got Eagles scoring 3-0 um right there. And we got some things to go over for this week. So this week, what I have put up here, every Thursday we kind of look at like what trades or moves should we make for the week. I know the waiver wire has already run, so some of these names might already be taken, but I tried to make them lower percentage uses just for a few, thoughts and ways to go about this. So for the waiver wire, this is only very deep uh, reaches in case you are coming up on bye or um, in wanting to switch out your quarterback. I've been down on CJ Stroud, especially through those first weeks. It seems like they're picking it up and getting it together just a little bit. His end of season schedule is not bad, so I'm not saying you got to pick him up now. Maybe if you're desperate or in need, you can. But he is someone for me that could at least potentially use an extra look um, if you're in need. Uh, Next, we got Mason Taylor and Theo Johnson, both of them tight end options. Theo Johnson's playing tonight, so going to be observing him on what we think of him for the rest of the season. But he did have good usage. The past couple games, just no yardage. Mason Taylor got a little bit more yardage, so he's a little bit higher on that list. But this week can be another confirmation on whether that they are legit for the rest of the season or not. It seems like it. So if you're in need of a buy or injury at the tight end position, you could pick them up. Obviously, Darren Waller is the best option, but he's picked up in most leagues already. So Darren Waller is definitely number one, but these were a little bit deeper. And then for the running back position, it's pretty much everybody knows where it's at. The Chargers backfield, Arizona backfield, and Tampa Bay backfield were huge priorities because of all the injuries. But I think in terms of just skill at the who are backups, Tyler Algier is pretty skilled, and he does get work and he does get usage. So maybe they can start to work him in it a bit more. But he's a decent handcuff to have because he actually gets some usage and can actually score a bit. And finally, Brandon Ayuk, it doesn't look like he's coming back today or tomorrow, but he's somebody, if your team is like decimated at the wide receiver position and you're desperate for wide receivers, and you have that ability to switch things out on your bench, he's a good person to potentially stash on your bench coming back from injury. Everybody's injured in San Francisco, and Brandon Ayuk put up over 1,000 yards 2 seasons in a row with ample touchdowns. It was like 7 and 8 touchdowns, I think. So, or maybe it was 6 and 7, but he's a decent player to look at if you're if you're desperate for wide receivers. So we got the Giants marching down the field. Drop any questions in the chat. Philadelphia almost had an interception right there. It's 3rd down. already. And Jaxson Dart is in the shotgun. Flag is called. All right. All right. Let's see. All right. All right. Let's see what's going on. So we got 3rd and 12 for Jaxson Dart and the Giants. Got 3rd and 12 in the shotgun, taking the snap, dropping back, fires deep. Oh, and it's caught. It is caught. Wow, that was an ill-advised throw that ended up being caught. That was crazy. That was insane. I don't even know what to think. That was an ill-advised throw way deep. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. All right. So we got 2nd down now. We got Jaxson Dart scrambling. Ooh, incomplete, just slightly high. That could have been a touchdown. That really could have been a touchdown. Wow. All right, so it's going to be 3rd and 8. They're marching towards the red zone. Jaxson Dart and the Giants. Let's see. Let's see what they can do. Let's see if they can put some points on the board against this tough Philly defense. So we got 3rd and 8 on the 20. Shotgun formation. We got Jaxson Dart taking the snap, dropping back, scrambling forward, gets the 1st down, and Jaxson Dart running it in for the touchdown himself. There you go, Jaxson Dart. Getting the touchdown for your team. Running that in. Whoever played Jaxson Dart against this Philly defense has to be happy with that rushing score in the 1st quarter. That was awesome. Jaxson Dart scoring the touchdown. All right, so we got New York up 6-3. They're kicking the extra point. 9:59 left in the game. Snap is off. Extra point is good. So 7-3 after each team got their 1st drive of the game. And we got Jaxson Dart scoring it himself, taking it to the end zone himself, running it in. What a play. What a play. Who would have thought that the Giants would be leading? Maybe that means for those people who want AJ Brown and things to get points, there can be some game script here to get some points on the board. So let's see. All right, they got 8 points. So Philly's defense went down to 8 points. We got to update that. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat. While I update this, we'll also start looking at the buy low candidates. So at this point in the season, we kind of know who's who, right? We kind of know who's good, who's still shaky, and all that. So we kind of have value for measurable value for everybody, right? And so what I want to bring up for today's thought process in trades for the rest of the season is all these people that I put up here, these decisions were based off of rest of season schedule, specifically like playoff schedule or coming towards the end of the fantasy football season. Um, so when we look at these players like Bucky Irving as a buy low candidate, he's injured right now. So that's already one thing to be looking at. But over these next weeks, he has a decently tough schedule. So what that means is if he's injured and when he comes back, maybe he's a potential candidate you could look at buying for the end of the season. If somebody's frustrated with the injury, or he has a bad game or something coming off of injury for the whole season, Bucky Irving is going to be good. But he's somebody to look at as a buy low candidate. All right, let me update this bottom spotlight here. All right, cool. Zay Flowers. So Zay Flowers is dealing with an injury. Lamar Jackson is dealing with an injury. People might be panicking about the Ravens. So maybe somebody's willing to move off of him. But he has a very good schedule. And with where their defense is at, they might be needing to pass. So he's a good candidate as well. And then same thing for DK Metcalf. Yes, I think he's playing Cleveland, and it might be tough this week coming out. But DK Metcalf has been up and down the entire year, so the users could be frustrated. So with the bad game, maybe potentially coming out, if he might be somebody who could buy low. We'll get into the sell highs after, but Philly's starting their drive. Jalen Hurts is in the shotgun. They're on their own 29-yard line. It's dropping back, passing. Dallas Goedert for about 3 or 4 yards. Dallas Goedert's been somebody who has been catching touchdowns almost every week for these past weeks since he came back from injury. So he was probably a highly streamed player in this last week or so. Everybody's hoping he catches a touchdown. So we'll see what they can do on 2nd and 5 here. Philly 2nd and 5, shotgun formation, high snap, handoff. Barkley met in the backfield and swallowed up for like -4 yards or something like that. -3 yards. The Giants broke through. It is now 3rd and long. So we got the Giants holding Philly 3rd and 8. We got Philly here at 3rd and 8 looking to make some moves. So we got Jalen Hurts in shotgun formation. 5 seconds on the play clock. 3rd and 8, dropping back. And he's getting sacked. The Giants are sacking Philly, putting it 4th down. 4th and long. The Giants are going to be able to get the ball back. Wow. Wow. That is crazy. All right. What do we got? We got a kickoff. Punt. So Philly, 3 and out. Going back to the Giants. Punt is off. Fielded by the Giants, running it back. All right. So let's hit next the sell high category of things. Oh, wait. Jake asked, what is up, Jake? Pickens or London in standard scoring? Ooh, That is a good question. You know, I have Drake London, but my heart, for some reason, just right off the bat, wanted to say uh, George Pickens. Let me look at um, their matchups real quick. Um, so London's playing Buffalo, decently strong defense, but Buffalo can score. So that game script will at least be needed. And we look at Pickens. Let's see. Dallas is playing. Who is Dallas playing? Let me find them. Pickens is playing Carolina, which on paper has actually been shutting down wide receivers, which is kind of weird, right? It's almost exactly the opposite of last year where you saw uh everybody passing on them, but everybody's running on Carolina now. Um, so George Pickens actually, they both have decently tough matchups. I trust the Bills to score more than Carolina. Uh, so I would play London in this matchup. Just because for some weird stats that Carolina has actually been holding their opponents down, in terms of receiving yardage, even though Carolina sucks. Um, they've actually been holding their opponents for receiving touchdowns, and it's especially touchdowns since you're in standard, right? Um, Down lower, and then Buffalo probably has a better chance to actually score to create. You also have Quentin Johnson. For some reason, I remember them having a good matchup. Oh, they're playing Miami, I think, right? Oh man. Oh, let me double check. I'm pretty sure they're playing uh Miami, right? And if that's the case, Quentin Johnson probably has the best matchup. Yes, he is playing Miami, so Quentin Johnson does have the best matchup. He's coming off an injury though, I think. So we probably have to look into that. Yeah, so he has the best matchup. Um, but he's injured, so be careful. Be careful on Quentin Johnson. So how I would probably rank that is London or Quentin over Pickens. Um, if Quentin Johnston practices in full, I think I still might pick London just because they're coming off the bye, so they're fresh. Um, yeah, I think I would pick London. But I wouldn't be mad at you if you played Quentin. Pickens is the lowest for me out of those. Yeah, is Abuka's definitely you're gonna play him, right? There's no way you're not playing Abuka in that. So let me know if that helped. Let me know if that confused you even more. But I would go London QJ Pickens, but if you want to play Quentin, go ahead because he does have a good matchup. Um, so I would play London, but hopefully that helped. Let me know if not. Please drop a like if you can spare a minute. Confusing me more because it's splitting hairs. Yeah, it is, right? It's like you're picking like it's like, oh geez, man, first world problems, bro. You have to pick between borderline wide receiver 1 and 2 for all of your options. Um, I think I think London has the safest floor. How about that? Out of the three of them, I think London has the safest floor. Let me pull up some data for you. I like it's hard to say no to Quentin, right? It's hard to say no to Quentin just because of what he's done. Oh, I don't have it. I must have taken it off. So I had something on here for um Justin Herbert, and basically what I was going over is that his his numbers have been scaring me kind of recently over the past weeks. But Michael Penix is not a stud, right? So um I don't think you're taking it. Uh and my wide receivers are top 12 guys. Oh no, I know exactly, right? Um so man, and you can't play three of them. Like you can't play like a third one in a flex. You're playing all those guys. Oh, because it's standard, huh? Right, it's standard. So you probably have solid running backs. Um, that's or at least that's my guess. But yeah, I think to me, no, because you have Warren and McBride. So what do you mean you're flexing? You're flexing either Warren or McBride, but then isn't aren't your wide receivers stronger than your than that flex? Or maybe is yours a two tight end league and no flex maybe? Um in my league is PPR for tight end. Okay. So tight end premium. For sure, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. Okay, for sure, for sure. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, so I guess when it to round it out, um, Quentin has three mouths to feed in that offense. Uh, so even though it's a plus matchup, there is a little bit of risk, right? Uh, where the yardage goes. Pickens has has the difficult matchup. He is the only option. Um, but I think it's broken play or nothing for him. London, I think, it has is the safest floor for me, but um, you know, I'm not a Penix believer, but I think I would go with London in that. But I appreciate all the questions. Do you think London too? Yeah. Yeah, I know it was scary. I have him too for those first couple weeks, but it looks like they're gonna force feed him the ball. Um, so that's what I would go with. So you're going. Smitty says you're going Brees and White. It's PPR league. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Then those guys for sure probably had the uh best value there. But yeah, hopefully that helps you both, Jake and the Smitty. You're welcome. Drop a like if you guys got a second. I really appreciate all you guys' questions. 100 to you guys. Appreciate y'all. Hopefully you guys win. Hopefully you guys win. Oops, there's no touchdown. What am I doing? All right, so wait, what did we miss? Did I miss something? Because the Giants now have 13 points. What the heck happened? What the heck happened? So Smitty says you're 1-4, looking to go on a run. Your team's now quarterback Daniels, Purdy / Jones, Gabriel, running backs Monty Henderson, White, Hall, wide receivers Nico, DK, Rashi Rice, and Jennings. Woo! Yeah, you're pretty good, bro. Um, you're pretty good. You need. Oh wait, but were you the one looking to get running backs? Let me look back at the chat. I totally am blanking. Um. Oh no, you said you finessed everybody. That's right. That's right. You finessed everybody to get to get the quarterbacks and then turn them into assets. Okay. Yeah, you're doing good. You are doing very good. Um, and this is a double quarterback league. This is a double quarterback league. Okay. Nice. Nice, nice. You gonna roll with that team, or did you look at any trades? I think it's a decent team to run at, make a run with. Um, just seeing if there's any room for, because your running back is probably the most needed, but you got upside with Henderson if anything happens there. But Monty as a RB2 and Brees Hall as your RB1. Okay. I could get with that. All right, drop any questions in the chat. Drop any thoughts or comments. It looks like the Eagles are gonna score here. First and goal, handing off to Barkley on the 4-yard line. Nowhere to go. What did I miss in the time off? What did we have? We had a score or something because they went down. So they gave first and goal. All right, there's a pitch. Is Goddard going to get in? He got in again. Oh my goodness. Dallas Goddard, how are you going to be catching all these touchdowns like this? Dallas Goddard be catching all these touchdowns, man. Holy smokes. That's so funny. Smitty says your team gives points on all return yards. Oh, so if Henderson does kick return and gets RB touches, oh, you're good. Oh, that's okay. That's definitely a positive there. Wow. Actually, that's cool. I've never played in a league like that. That's an interesting thing. I've heard of that before. I've never personally played in one, but that's pretty sick. So we got Jalen Hurts scoring touchdowns by passing it or flipping it, whatever you want to call it, to Dallas Goddard. Wow. All right. That's awesome. That is awesome. Bugs Bunny, yo, how are you? Should you trade Josh Jacobs, Keenan Allen, and George Pickens for Justin Jefferson and Bucky Irving? Okay, so this looks like a consolidation trade to me. And so correct me if I'm wrong here. And so when I'm talking about consolidation trades, what I mean by that is like you either have points on your bench that are being left. You're flipping between people in your flex or your second wide receiver position or something like that. And you could be missing, every other week or every so often if you guess wrong. Because what this looks like to me is you're basically trying to condense Keenan Allen and George Pickens into Justin Jefferson. Yes, Josh Jacobs' value is higher than Bucky Irving, right? Like, don't get me wrong, because he's injured and what's happened so far, but in half the universes, right, Josh Jacobs and Bucky Irving could finish the season very, very close, right? And so what I would say this trade can work for you if you give up Keenan Allen and George Pickens, and you're sliding that into Jefferson, and you have another wide receiver where it's not like you're downgrading to somebody worse than Keenan Allen or George Pickens, right? Like let's say you had Puka Nacua, JSN. I don't know who your other wide receiver is. You could let me know. But if you're kind of basically we're flipping between Keenan Allen and George Pickens, and you're having a hard time selecting, this is a win for you, right? This is a win because Josh Jacobs, versus Bucky Irving. Josh Jacobs is higher, but like I said, it really depends. And Bucky Irving has a very solid end of season schedule, so that is to your advantage if you're getting Bucky Irving, Bugs Bunny. But let me know if I'm off base here, or if that brought up any other thoughts for you. Of course, the Smitty's going against Dallas Goddard. Oh no, sorry, bro. Oh, sorry. Oh man. Hopefully that's the only one. Hopefully we can just leave it there. Roy Q, how are you? Who could I possibly trade Montgomery for, like running back wise? 10-man PPR. You have Jonathan Taylor, Trey Benson, and Montgomery. So it looks like it sounds like you don't like Montgomery as your second running back, and you're hoping for somebody for some more stability, because obviously you're playing Jonathan Taylor. So what I'm assuming is you're trying to flip Montgomery for another running back in a PPR league. Let me know if I'm off base here or if I'm headed down the right train of thought, because I'm going to keep rolling with this. So Montgomery has value, right? He does have value, but probably in your position, it's a little scary because he's a little touchdown dependent, right? It's kind of like um, if he's playing a plus matchup team and, they're projected to score touchdowns through the running game, he's a good play. But if, they can stuff the running game kind of like a Cleveland, and then it's a little scarier, right? So um, what I would be then looking at is whoever you're flipping with should probably have running back depth, right? To be able to be willing to then sit David Montgomery. Okay, I'm on the right path. They should be willing to sit David Montgomery, but they see the upside potential of David Montgomery, right? And so who is in this potential range, because David Montgomery did have a huge week, right? So he is what position is he? He is number 15 running back on the year, so he has high perceived value, right? So when you look at Montgomery, he's averaging about 13 half. So he's in this range of like uh Kenneth Walker, Cam Skattebo, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. You're probably not going to get Quinshon Judkins from him. Maybe Brees Hall. Um, maybe Chuba Hubbard. Um, DeAndre Swift. Um, J.K. Dobbins is probably too much of a stretch. Um, but so what I would be looking for, based on I'm kind of assuming, right, but you told me I'm on the right path, is I'd be looking for somebody who's catching a little more passes, um, and around that same range, right? So, Cam Skattebo's doing pretty well. It's a little risky, right? Because he can split with Tracy when he comes back. Um, Krosky Merritt's kind of in this range. Judkins is in this range, but that's because he missed a week, so he probably is not really in this range. Brees Hall is in this range, um, and he catches passes. Chuba Hubbard injured, but he's catching passes. He could split with Rico Dowdle, but um, you know, David Montgomery splits, right? So you have to keep that in mind. DeAndre Swift has the backfield to himself kinda ish right now. And he's catching passes, so he's a possibility. If if you love to live life on the edge, you could try Chase Brown, but I would not advise it. Jalen Warren, he's 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 someone else that's in that range. Um, and again, what what this roster build that this other person would be looking for is like they'd be playing these players in either their flex or their bench, because they would see the upside of David Montgomery. Because I don't think you're like J.K. Dobbins is like a stretch to get. I don't think you're gonna get him. You're not gonna get anybody like Travis Etienne or Josh Jacobs. I think the highest range that you'll probably be able to hit is like Kenneth Walker, Cam Skattebo, Corey Krosky Merritt, Quinshon Judkins, Brees Hall. That's probably people willing, like in that range. Let me know if that helped or not, Roy. Appreciate the question and thoughts. Let me know if I'm off or not. And anybody, feel free to drop any questions in the chat. I appreciate everybody's questions. Drop any questions in the chat to all of those. That definitely helped. That's exactly what you're thinking. Oh, for sure, man. For sure. Appreciate you dropping. We'll be wishing the best for you, praying for you to get that to get a good trade. Just let me know if you got any targets in mind. But wishing you the best with that trade. Let me see what is going on here. All right. So the Smitty says, what are some good quarterbacks to target that might get traded? Okay, so from what I remember, you're in a 2 quarterback league, right? Let me just scroll up. Yeah, you're in a 2 quarterback league. So quarterbacks are they're highly sought after in your league. So you'd have to be looking a little deeper um in order to get somebody, right? Because like your top guys are not going to move. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Dak. Maybe Stafford might move, but uh, Stafford's a good target if no one's caught on yet. But he's on fire. Daniel Jones not going to move. Lamar James, Jared Goff. Maybe somebody's potentially frustrated. Sam Darnold, he might be a good target. CJ Stroud, um, might might be there. Tua, Jordan Love, um, Bryce Young, Aaron Rodgers. Uh, Depending on what Jackson Dart does today, because you're looking in the lower range, right? Because since you're in a 2 quarterback league, uh, you basically have to play 2, so your value is so much higher on quarterbacks in this league. I mean, so you're probably looking for the people that are like super frustrating, right? Geno Smith, Bryce Young, like hopefully you can try to target Stafford, but he's been going nuts, or CJ Stroud. They've been going nuts though. Kyler Murray's probably a little frustrating. Trevor Lawrence is probably a little frustrating. Tua and Spencer Rattler, Jordan Love, they might be frustrating. So that's kind of the range I'd be looking at, depending on what Jackson Dart does um, today. I doubt Joe Flacco is going to do anything, but you can potentially look at him. That's kind of the range I'd be looking at. Hopefully that helps or not. Roy says your team consists of Jaden Daniels, Jonathan Taylor, CeeDee Lamb, Odunze, Debo, Quentin Johnson. What are you just bragging at this point, man? Are you just bragging at this point or what? Oh man, that's solid. That is solid. That is very, very solid otherwise. Okay. Um, I mean, let's see. You're so deep at receiver. Are you a 3 receiver league or a 2 receiver league? Um, because now based on that, if you're a 2 receiver league, um, you might be able to bundle one of your receivers and get an even better. You're a 2 receiver league. So here's my thoughts on your. Oh my goodness, this spam is so fun. Spam musubi, spam musubi, spam fried rice. Ha 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 ha. Very funny. Okay. So here's my thoughts. Since you're in a 2 receiver league and you have CeeDee Lamb is what I'm understanding, right? Odunze, Debo, and Quentin Johnson. Those are 4 highly sought after wide receivers. And at max, even if you have a flex, you can only play 3, right? It's always nice to have depth, but what I could be looking at in your position is if you're going to get rid of Montgomery, if you could package one of the wide receivers in there too, and then maybe instead of just flipping it for, somebody of equal or value, maybe then you can get the higher level players, right? maybe you can then move into that next tier of running backs that I was telling you that you wouldn't be able to touch, to be able to get a higher running back, than that. Like if you can pair, like, let's say Debo plus Montgomery or QJ plus Montgomery, then maybe you can move into that like other range. So let me pull that back up. So then you could potentially, yeah, be targeting, the Travis Etienne, the J.K. Dobbins, the Ashton Genty, that little bit higher of a tier, the Quinshawn Judkins, right? Um, you could be targeting that tier in that case, because if otherwise with those four wide receivers, you're always going to be kind of leaving one of those guys on the bench, and that's almost useless value, right? So this is a consolidation trade then, where you're consolidating two of your players into somebody's team who might um need those positions, right? So you really like Dobbins, right? So if you really like Dobbins, right, then you go to that Dobbins team, see Dobbins plus somebody, right? Um, Package those two together, to try to get somebody, right? Like Dobbins plus, plus something. Very little value, but Dobbins plus something of littler value. So yeah, since you're so deep at receiver, I would look at trying to bundle some of that together, because otherwise it's just wasted value, right? If you got 4 or 5 wide receivers, you're only able to play 3, even with added depth. That's a lot of added depth that could potentially be turned into then a solid running back 2, which right now you're trying to upgrade that, right, to a strong running back 2 or a weak running back 1, and then maybe like a Keon Coleman or somebody, whoever is sitting on their bench, a wide receiver that they don't use at all. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense to be able to target, consolidate your players, and try to match what the other person might need, right? Um, for their needs to make it a win-win. Hopefully that helps. I appreciate that. So the Smitty says those QBs are all gone. I'm talking about backups who could get traded. Oh, you're talking about off the waiver wire. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about trading with somebody. So in the case of what you're saying, we have to look at, you're basically talking about like what happened to Joe Flacco right now, right? With since going to Cincinnati. I don't think anything's going to happen with that. But when I'm envisioning what you're saying is a situation like that, right? So I think you have to look at the situations of the teams and like see what the value is there. So let me pull up all teams and see what people need. So the Cardinals, they're not going to move off. Baltimore's not going to move off. Buffalo's not going to move off. Atlanta, they're probably not going to move off Penix, but maybe if they keep playing crappy, Kirk Cousins comes into play. Carolina Panthers, they really want to roll with Bryce Young, but he's been freaking terrible. So that's a potential mover. So Atlanta's a mover. Carolina's a potential mover. The Bears are not going to move. Cleveland's probably going to roll with Dylan Gabriel the rest of the season. Dallas not going to move. Denver's not going to move. CJ Stroud's going to be locked. Jared Goff's going to be locked. Jordan Love's going to be locked. Daniel Jones has looked like he's going to be locked. Stafford and Trevor Lawrence are probably locked. Patrick Mahomes is locked. JJ McCarthy and Carson Wentz, that's going to still flip back and forth. The Saints, it looks like they want to roll with Spencer Rattler. He's looked okay, so I don't think anything's going to move there. The Raiders, I don't think they're going to move off Geno Smith because, what is it, Kenny Pickett's behind him. But maybe they might move there. That is a potential, but who they would go for, I don't know. But it looks like Pete Carroll's trying to blame things on the coordinator. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm a Raiders fan, so I don't know what they're gonna do there, but that potentially might move. Tua's probably gonna stay. You might want to watch Miami, but they're probably gonna stay on Tua. San Francisco's gonna stay. Philly's gonna stay. Drake May's gonna stay. Sam Darnold's gonna stay. The Jets, they're probably gonna ride that out. Aaron Rodgers is gonna ride out. Yes, maybe the Titans. They want to play Cam Ward. I don't see much movement happening besides those teams that I mentioned, but I think it's a long shot for them to do anything like that. Seems like they'll want to try that. Roy says definitely does. I'll send an offer to the owner of Dobbins. Awesome, man. Well, good luck. Good luck to you with that. Appreciate you. Let me know if there's any other thoughts. Drop a like if you can. I really appreciate you, Roy. The Smitty says, would I trade Genty for Javonte Williams? So does that mean I'm trading away Genty and receiving Javonte Williams, or Javonte Williams and I'm receiving Genty? So where I'm at with that is I would, when it's close, I want to look at the playoff schedule and end of season schedule. I personally think right now, what's his name? Javonte Williams has, the more safe, right? The more safe look at this. So how I would kind of look at what I trade this is like what am I looking for in this trade? If I'm trying to get Genty, I am trying to get some type of upside, right? We see how fast he is. We see what he can do. So we're hoping the Raiders pull it together. But he has a low floor because that offense is just tragic. It's just tragic, right? I read it wrong. Oh, would I trade for Genty or Javonte Williams? Who would I target? Is essentially what you're saying, right? Sorry. Okay. Well, I guess somewhat of the logic still stands, right? So Genty, I am trading for him for upside, more so, right? Like I truly believe that, in this position, I need a boom potential. Am I still reading it wrong? Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me. Sorry if I'm reading it wrong. I think Javonte's the safer player for that. Like I don't see Javonte backing down from like at worst high end RB2, low end RB1. But I do believe that Genty ceiling could be limited if they don't figure it out in the Raiders. But if they do figure it out, I think his ceiling is higher. So it depends on what I'm looking for. Does Pickett have any rushing upside? Does he scramble? Pickett has no upside. Pickett has no upside. Okay, I shouldn't be so mean. If you look back at his seasons, he is not a good quarterback. He is not a scoring quarterback. So let me pull up these stats for you. So in his seasons, he's played 13 games in 2022, 12 games in 2023, and he had 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and then 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And this is a quarterback, right? So that is very not good. That is not good at all. So he does not have any upside. Yes, he rushed for a couple touchdowns, but that does not make up at all for comparison to 2,000 yard seasons. He's throwing for 2,000 yards. For comparison, right? When we're looking at good quarterbacks, we're wanting 4,000 yards. So he is not there as a quarterback. Okay, so I did get it. Well, hopefully that helped the Smitty. If that made sense or not for why I would be targeting Genty or Javonte. Right now, both those guys are going to be expensive. Genty more so probably because of the name value, but he might be a little cheaper just because people could be frustrated. Javonte's been balling out, so he's gonna be expensive. Roy Q, would you do QJ plus Montgomery for Kamara and Pittman? You think Kamara is going to be traded? I think you're losing in that trade, unless I don't like that trade. The reason I don't like that trade is because Kamara, it looks like he's slowly losing touches week over week. Let me see if I have it on this thing. Is he on here? Yeah, he is on here. So bottom right, what we're looking at here is what is expected for Kamara versus what has actually been happening. And they've had negative expectations of him, as the weeks have been kind of going on, and he's still underperforming. So I personally don't like Kamara for the rest of the season. I love Pittman. I think Pittman is great value, but you're giving up Quentin Johnston, which his value right now is pretty high. So I kind of don't like that trade. James, I see your question, but I am going to use the restroom real quick, and I'll be right back. So I'll answer your question as soon as I get back. All right, I am back. Sorry about that delay. Mother Nature called. So James said, in full PPR, who is your rest of season wide receiver preference? Rashee Rice or Abika Ibuka? Many thanks, dude. It is so hard to bet against Emeka Ibuka at this point. Last week I said sell high. If you still could sell high and get around a Puka Nacua, sure, but I am not trading him for Rashee Rice. And the reason being for me is that Ibuka is proven for this season, right? He's proven. We've been through 5 weeks, and he has performed every single week. Even so, right now, there's still questions on Chris Godwin's health, Mike Evans' health. But even when they're back, he has the connection with Baker Mayfield. It's like visually apparent that he's one of Baker's favorite targets. So even if Chris Godwin and Evans come back, he's still going to be looked at. Rashee Rice, people like to say he's proven because over certain spans over the past 2 years, he has performed at a wide receiver 1 level. However, and I'm not going to say he can't do that again. But what I am saying is he's coming in 6 weeks late, and now he has to prove it, right? So to me, he has to prove 5 games worth of consistency as good as Ibuka. And maybe I can give him the benefit of the doubt of being able to, perform that well. But the fact is that Ibuka has proven it, and Rashee Rice is coming in where they are probably going to need him, and he will probably score. But it's just I'm unsure. So I would prefer to keep Ibuka in that point. Let me know if that helps or if that doesn't confuse you even more. But I appreciate that, James. Oh, you're welcome. Appreciate it. If you could drop a like, many thanks. Many thanks. Um, the Smitty. So you're playing the guy that has Bucky, and you have Rashad White. Do you think I should offer him a package to get Bucky next week? I mean, if you're gonna offer him a package, you should probably start now, right? Um, because the longer you wait as the Bucky owner, the more willing I am to wait for Bucky to come back. Um, so if you're gonna offer him, yeah, I would offer sooner rather than later. Uh, do you have a package in mind for this? Because that it might be expensive unless you're giving him plug and plays, and right now he's playing like trash, right? If he's playing off the waiver wire, then that he has reason to trade. But if he's not, then he doesn't really have a pain to trade. Um, Roy Q. So QJ and Montgomery for Dobbins. No, I think you're giving up too much for that in that position. Whoever has like if you're looking to specifically target Dobbins, go to that person's team and then find either if you want to double down on running. Well, I don't know if they have enough running backs to double down on running back depth, but look for somebody else on their bench who they don't really use that you could backfill, because you should like QJ for that addition to onto Montgomery is more than just Dobbins by itself. I hope that makes sense. Like, yes, Dobbins is an upgrade to Montgomery, but you're getting so much with QJ that you should be able to get like a backup wide receiver or something in addition to Dobbins from that person's roster, right? Because they have people on their bench, and you should be targeting either their flex or like somebody that they have on their bench that is of value, because you're giving him two startable players, right? You're giving him two startable players, so you should be able to get your startable player plus maybe a borderline startable player. Since Dobbins is the target, you should be able to get somebody else in addition. I hope that kind of makes sense, Roy. But let me know um, if not. Oh yes, here comes. They're very good at this spam. Okay, yeah, let me know, Roy. Let me know. He lost Amari and Hampton. To me says he lost Amari and Hampton and Bucky, and his second starting quarterback is Rodgers. Except for game one, Rodgers has been scoring his projection every week. Yes, that is true. That is 100% true. And you were deep at quarterback, right? Let me look back at your team. So you got Daniels, Purdy or Jones. Okay, so in your scenario, then you could give up either Purdy or Daniel Jones, for what I'm assuming, and he would see that as an upgrade. Um, and then if you throw him, so you're thinking of packaging like Rashad White plus uh like Daniel Jones to get Bucky or something like that. Is that what I'm understanding, Smitty? And I think if that's so, I think you're on the right track there to try to get Bucky, because he would have a pain of wanting a running back now, and then with Rodgers not performing well, getting somebody like a Daniel Jones or something like that would be enticing. Let me know if I'm on the right track or not there, Smitty. Okay, James says you have Jalen Coker on your bench. Thoughts on him rest of the season, and would I play him this week to Dallas, who seems to be giving up a lot of points? Well, uh, who is James? Who is the rest of your team, or like who would you be playing Jalen Coker in place of? Um, because I'll be honest, I am not a fan of Bryce Young. Um, I I also think that offensive line he's always scrambling for. Um, Jalen Coker, I don't see anything more as a deep bench stash because they haven't even gotten Tedroma McMillan going yet, right? Um, and so they're probably going to try to focus on getting him going. And then you're going to get the secondary scraps between Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker. And then you're relying on a quarterback that I don't find to be trustworthy. Um, so I honestly don't really like him that much, but it's all versus who, right? Like who would you be playing instead, or who would you be dropping um, for in that point? So let me know, James. But I honestly, if you're playing him against Dallas, you're just rolling the dice for a touchdown. I wouldn't bench somebody startable, right? Like I'm not benching like a Michael Pittman or anybody like that for or Chris Olave just because of the matchup. But I think the question comes down to James, like, uh, who would you put on your roster instead of Jalen Coker? Who would you start instead? Roy says, I feel like if I just wait for Trey Benson, my team will be complete. And if any injuries happen, I get good deals based off your receivers. You're 3-2, and you're playing someone that's 0-5 with a horrible team this week. Okay. I don't think Chuba's going to play. So you have Rico. Okay. 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 So you like your what I'm getting from that, Roy, is you like your roster. And it feels like to you you'd be giving up too much value um to make any of these trades when you're just hoping to be able to roll with Trey Benson for your running back for the season. Is that what I'm understanding? And also don't downgrade Rico even if Chuba plays, because with how well he's been playing, we don't know if he doesn't continue not playing, right? Like maybe they, even when Chuba's healthy, they split that backfield, right? We don't, and maybe he even gets the lion's share in some games. So if you're happy with your record, right? If you're happy with your record and you feel like you're just making the trade to make the trade, then I would say don't do it, right? The trade should more feel like I'm wasting these points, so I need to consolidate, right? Or I am 0-5 or 1-4. This roster is not working. I have to make a change. Like those are the situations more so to make a trade rather than, well, I'm not sure, maybe, right? In that case, like you said, if you're projected to continue winning for the next couple weeks until Trey Benson gets there, and you believe Trey Benson is going to be a reliable player for your team, and you like how your team built up is, then don't do it. Then don't do it. Um, no, that's Jaden Daniels, and I would do a QB swap with Rodgers and Gabriel, then give him some RBs and wide receiver for Bucky. What do I think? Um, I think I think let me look back at your running backs and stuff. Because if I'm understanding your roster right, in a two quarterback league, you have four quarterbacks right now. Um, but you're looking for some depth at the other skill positions. Um, so I would be careful on uh running out of depth at the running back or wide receiver position if you consolidate too much. So like what I mean by that is, like, let's say you flip quarterback for quarterback, right? And then you're trying to get Bucky, but then you give up two skill positions in order to get Bucky. because your bench is deep in quarterback, I'm just saying, just make sure you have enough depth at the other positions in case, Bucky's injury lingers or another player gets injured, um, that you have the depth there. I'm just trying to make sure I understood the swap right, because if you're going to consolidate two players to get Bucky in a two quarterback league, I'm just trying to make sure that you have enough depth that you're not going to be streaming, wide receivers or whatnot, the Smitty. But hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Have some wide receiver buys, so my option is Coker or Kendrick Bourne. I would go with Kendrick Bourne. I told somebody not to play him last week, and I will completely eat my words on that. I honestly thought it was too short of a week, but I think how I justified this was that, oh yeah, it does make sense because Kendrick Bourne and Mac Jones would be getting the second string targets together on the practice field. This week, San Francisco is still out George Kittle. I believe the early preliminary report said they don't expect Ricky Pearsall back or Jennings. So from what it looks like, they're going to roll out with pretty much the same exact roster as last week. And San Francisco's system has proven to me that they can just throw a system together. So because Kendrick Bourne has performed, and it looks like they're looking to him as a target, I am more so the fan of Kendrick Bourne. But let me quadruple check things. Yeah, Jalen Coker is coming off of injury, right? So there's a question mark on that. And we got Kendrick Bourne coming off of what? It was like 15 targets or some crazy number like that. 10 of 11 targets last week. They're playing the Bucks who can score. So yeah, I would lean Kendrick Bourne in that one. Hopefully that helped, James. Roy, yes, definitely you're at a good spot right now. I don't want to make a dumb trade just because I want another RB2. CD, Kittle, and Rice are in my lineup next week. I've been winning games without them. Yeah. Okay. So if that's the case, then yeah, just hold on. Just hold on for Trey Benson. And who knows, maybe an opportunity for a trade can come up even after this next week too. So then definitely you could wait the week instead of like I was trying to say, don't listen don't listen to what I said then for going for it early. If you could wait a week, then yeah, go ahead. Juwan Jennings looks like he's playing. You have both him and Bourne, so I'll play Jennings if he plays. Oh, they said that Jennings is going to play. Yeah, Jennings also has that contract that has to do with playing, right? So he could be used as a decoy as well. His stats and usage hasn't scared me on this year of like being super amazing. So I think he's still a decent start even if Jennings plays because you're still missing Pearsall, and could still use some targets, right? James, in full PPR, you have RJ Harvey, Woody Marks, and Bayshall Tootin on your bench. Are they worthwhile long-term stashes? You like the stream and subscribe. Thank you so much, James. Appreciate you subscribing, and if you and anything you could do, like, comments, hearts in the chat. I appreciate you so much. So I would say RJ Harvey is for sure someone to hold on to in that group. Okay. I I think if I were to say who's the most droppable out of that group is probably Bashal Tuden. Um, in this week, right? In this current period of time. But again, it's just who are you gonna who are you gonna drop in order to pick up? Because if you're picking up somebody even worse than Tootin, I wouldn't do it because he still has value as a handcuff with ETN having gotten hurt before. They actually kind of used Tootin a little bit and he looked good. So you know, if there's somebody worthwhile to pick up, then yeah, drop him. Woody Marks, uh, they keep trying to flash Joe Mixon, but I don't think he's playing. I haven't really heard much, and so all it takes is a little bit of a little bit of work in the right direction. Things didn't go his way, but I wouldn't give up on him, right? I wouldn't give up on him and just say because 1 week didn't go his way doesn't mean that over the next 4 weeks things could move in his direction. Um, so I think he's still worth the shot. But RJ Harvey out of all those guys, like if I could only keep one, for sure, I would keep him. And the reason being, Dobbins, it looks like he's destined to score every week. Um, Not saying yes, he has gotten injured. I'm not saying he will get injured, but what my thought process is on Harvey is that um over the course of the year, as they get more familiar with him and he gets more familiar with the offense, they might work him in more because he has shown explosive potential with a few plays, right? And I've mentioned this before, but that's Sean Payton running the Denver offense, and he is the one who made Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara work together. Where I see RJ Harvey very similar to Alvin Kamara and the ability to work both as an explosive back, but also a pass catcher. So I feel like they try to figure something out over the long term. They mentioned they want to keep Dobbins for the long term, which means that they would have to kind of, you know, uh, preserve him, right? So I think in the exact order that you laid it out, Harvey, then Woody Marks, then Bashal Tuden in terms of who I would keep. But I would ask, who would you drop Tuden for, type of thing, right? I wouldn't be dropping him for just nobodies. Um, okay, let's see. So while people drop all that, let me see what's gone on in the meantime. All right. So, wow. I am surprised the Giants are still winning going into the half. Wow, they are winning 20-17. That is surprising. 15 seconds left, 3rd and 10. Um, 3rd and 10 for Philly. They're down 17-20. Who is the um let's see. Let's see. The box scores are that all right, Jalen Hurts is 3rd and 10. The Giants called a timeout. Okay. So Jalen Hurts threw a touchdown. Saquon Barkley has 56 yards on 8 carries. Jalen Hurts has a rushing touchdown, 5 carries for 1 yard. Did he tush push his way in? AJ Brown, 5 receptions for 73 yards. Dallas Goedert has the touchdown and 50 yards with 6 receptions. Jeez, he did well. Okay. And then the Giants, Jaxson Dart has a rushing touchdown. Cam Skattebo has a rushing touchdown. And then Wan'Dale Robinson has 62 yards and a touchdown. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me see. Thank you to all. Drop any questions in the chat. All right, so Jalen Hurts sliding at the 50, no timeouts. Looks like it's just gonna go to uh it it just went to half. All right. Wow, who would have thought that the Giants would be winning at this point in time? At the halfway mark, up 20-17. So James said you traded low for wide receiver Lad McConkey. My thoughts on him rest of season. Yeah, so I think he's a good buy low candidate. Um, he did have the touchdown last week, but somebody might still be down on him. I do view that he will be serviceable. However, I would temper expectations on all of those guys. And what I mean by that is I think they're going to go heavily through the air. There's no run game, right? They're on their 10th string running backs. Who knows when Amari and Hampton's coming back? So they are going to have to pass. But there's a lot of mouths to feed. All three of those guys are playable pieces, but I see them all as like high upside, but it's going to be one guy's week one time and it's going to rotate, right? So I would temper my expectations of saying like if I bought Lad low, I'm trying to either put him between like a flex option to wide receiver twos on the fill-in weeks, but I wouldn't bank my team off of him to be like consistent between wide receiver 1 and 2 is where he was projected to be at the start. I would bump him a tier down, but since you bought him low, that should be fine, right? I hope that kind of makes sense, right? Let me know if that makes sense or not, James. But I do kind of like him. But I just I would bump him down. I think he's probably the most fundamental, like because like Keenan Allen has the best connection, very fundamental, but he's the slowest, right? Quentin Johnson looks like he has the best upside, but Ladd is probably overall the most technical and well-rounded wide receiver with speed, right? Because Keenan has a technique, but he doesn't have the speed anymore. So I do think they are going to serviceably use him. It's just it might be like a flex hit or miss type of thing. And Roy says, sorry for asking. No need to apologize. No need to apologize. You said, what about 1-for-1 Quentin Johnson for Dobbs? Yeah, you could do that. You could do 1-on-1 Quentin Johnson for Dobbins. I think that's a fair trade. And I think the other person that's fair value to them too if they need a wide receiver. So I could go for that, Roy. Because I think from what I remember, you had like 4 serviceable wide receivers. So if that's just depth sitting on the bench and then you were needing a running back, I think that's a perfect trade. The Smitty says, how do I feel about Romeo Doubs? Romeo Doubs is just like how I talked about with the Chargers of roulette. You're rolling the dice to see if you're going to hit on that week. But they have a really good run game, so they don't have to rely on the pass as much. So I think he's even riskier than the Green Bay wide receivers are even more riskier than the Chargers. So how I feel about him is I think in the right matchups, in the right situations for certain teams, like you have him on your bench, right? And you have a wide receiver on bye and he has a positive game script matchup, you could throw him in and just hope for a touchdown or a high ceiling. He's been in the league before, right, Romeo Doubs, and I think it was 8 touchdowns. Let me look it up. But he has caught like a lot of touchdowns before in a season. So it's not unheard of that he will catch more touchdowns this season. It's just what game is he going to catch him in, right? So this year he has 4 touchdowns on 13 receptions, right? So that's crazy. In previous years, he had 8 touchdowns
on 670 yards in 2023, right? So I can foresee something similar happening this year, maybe a few more yards, 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. I don't think it's out of the question for Romeo Doubs. It's just we don't know when those touchdowns are going to come. Um, and they might come in bunches, right? You might go 4 games without a touchdown and then 2 touchdowns in a game, or back to back touchdowns in a game and then 4 games without a touchdown. It's just, I don't think it's going to be consistent. Um, James says, is there a running back bench stash that you like for a full PPR league? So on here, I put Tyler Algier just because I think he's very skilled. Um, and I'm not betting against Bijan, but Tyler was serviceable, usable in some weeks, even with Bijan playing. Now, another name that I was flipping between that I was not sure if who I should put is actually Kendre Miller from uh from New Orleans. I think he is slowly working his way to a usable position there. I think I forgot who said it. Somebody said in the chat. They think that Alvin Kamara may get traded. So that's another thing playing. So I like how Kendrick Miller's usage has been going up. He's only rostered in like 20 to 30% of leagues, so he's findable. Um, he might be somebody versus Bashal Tuden that I would potentially consider. Um, right. I think Kenneth Gainwell is also a decent stash. Um, I think what we observe in this week's game, if they just go back to Jalen Warren as a workhorse, or if they start splitting touches with Gainwell because he did so well, um, that's an interesting person to potentially have as well. Um, let's see, and then I think I think yeah, man, I don't know how deep you're talking, and I would not give up Bashal Tutin for these two guys, but if you're looking even deeper than them, Brashard Smith from Kansas City might be interesting. I'm just not a fan of Pacheco, and I don't know how long they keep trying to use him when it's pretty obvious he's not usable over the past 2 years. And then in Chicago, Kyle Manungai, um, he's not getting crazy usage coming off injury and stuff, but he's somebody worth at least looking at and keeping on the peripherals. Tajay Spears is coming back from injury, so he's somebody to just keep on the radar as well. Um, but yeah, that's who I'm kind of looking at for running back stashes. Hope that helps or makes sense. Uh, let me know. Roy says, okay. The Dobbins owner responded. He wants QJ and Montgomery for Dobbins. He said I could add one more. His bench, he has Zay Flowers. Take him, 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 Zay Flowers. You guessing Flowers is off limits. I would have taken him. Okay. If I would obviously go for Flowers, obviously. But if he's off limits, I think what you're basically debating between for Jacoby Myers and DeVonta Smith is just which game flow do you foresee being a more likely outcome in this world? And it's either that, just like today, the Eagles will have to start throwing more than they did last year. In that case, DeVonta Smith has that upside. Or do you believe that the Raiders, Geno Smith, will get back on track to make Jacoby the serviceable wide receiver too. And what I would also look at in this exercise is then what are the schedules for those teams for the rest of the season. So when I look at the Raiders, when I look at the playoff weeks, you're playing the Texans, the Eagles, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Browns. That is a tough schedule. That is a very, very tough schedule. And if I look at Philly, we have, for those similar last weeks, you got the Bills, the Commanders, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Bears. So a little easier of a schedule, right? So if I viewed them both the same, I would take DeVonta Smith. Both of these guys have question marks right now around their offense. So I would aim for Zay Flowers just to try, right? Why not say, okay, what about Zay Flowers plus this? And then if he says no, then just know between Jacoby and DeVonta who you would prefer. Being a Raiders fan, I would want to say Jacoby Myers, but that last weeks looks very difficult for Jacoby. So I almost would lean DeVonta if you can put faith in Philly turning it around in terms of their passing game and needing to pass more. DeVonta having more opportunity to do there. But yeah, I would aim for Flowers and then know who my downgrade is. Hopefully that helps, Roy. Let me know. And then James, okay, makes perfect sense on the lad advice. Yeah, I appreciate the thoughts. Appreciate all thoughts and feedback. Any questions? And then Roy says, realistically, the reviewer I get will be on my bench because Debo will be next man up if one of your guys goes down. Okay. Yeah, so then I would for sure, okay, obviously I would target Zay, right? Zay Flowers. But if he says no, then in your case, I would target DeVonta Smith. And the reason why is because if I have a solid next up in line Deebo Samuel, right? Then all I'm looking to compare to is upside. And what I mean by that is I'd be willing to play Deebo Samuel pretty much every opportunity I had, but let's say I have a bye or Deebo's not usable, or I need to compare something to Deebo, like the steadiness of quote unquote of supposed to be what Jacoby Myers was supposed to be doesn't mean anything to you because you're playing him against Deebo. But if Deebo has a really crappy matchup, right, then you're looking for upside of somebody, which DeVonta Smith fits that build of upside potential to basically flip in and out versus Deebo if Deebo had a bad matchup, he's injured or whatever it is, right? I hope that makes sense, Roy. But that's what I would do. But again, if you feel that you're good with your team, go ahead and stay with it. But I would target Zay first and then DeVonta based on what you've shared with me. James, thank you. Amazing show. Are there any particular times? Yeah, so I stream before the games, right? So there's games on Thursday, Monday, and Sunday. So I stream 30 minutes before, and then I stream through through the games as long as I don't have overlapping stuff. So, for example, this Sunday there's a morning game, right? There's a London game, so I'll be streaming during the London game and the morning games, but I have some work in the afternoon, so after the morning games I'll be done. But sometimes I do the afternoon games as well. But so I'm streaming pretty much every game, right? The Monday, Thursday games, and then the Sunday game. But I appreciate that feedback. That means a lot. That makes me happy. That makes me happy. Thank you, James. appreciation and for every questions. Really appreciate that, James. Okay, so Roy says correct. Remember, you have CD, Odunze, and Rice with Debo. Right, right. Yeah. Then just keep it, bro. If he doesn't want to go 1-for-1, maybe somebody else in your league will go 1-for-1, right? Maybe somebody else in your league can go 1-for-1 for Quentin Johnston, um, who has an additional running back. Like if the trade doesn't feel right and you feel like you're forcing it, then don't do it, right? I feel like in your head you almost feel like you're forcing this trade. But if what best fits your roster build is to just trade one wide receiver for one running back, then yeah, I would take Quentin Johnston and I would go look for those other people in that similar range too and just see if they'll do 1-for-1 instead of trying to force the two. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Let me know. Okay. Thank you guys for all the questions. I didn't go over the sell high yet since we got so many good questions so far. So I'll kind of hit that well if anybody's looking for any more questions. So the sell high, right? Where we're at in the season, right, is we're almost halfway done with the fantasy football regular season, right? And so what I mean by that is to get to playoffs, you're typically playing 12, 13, 14, maybe 15 games, right? And this is week 6. So, oh, you're welcome, Roy. You're welcome. Appreciate the like, appreciate the sub. Hopefully see you again in another stream. Let me know any other questions. But yeah, so for the sell high and where we're at in the season, right? We're almost at that halfway point, right? So which means you have another 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 weeks left in the regular season before you get to your fantasy playoffs. So you could basically say that you have like a third or close to a half worth of data that you could basically say, what would this look like if this repeated again for 1 or 2 more cycles, right? And if you are in a position where you want to make the playoffs, right? Or you're going to want to be competitive, then what you need to be looking at in terms of your trades is what your team is going to look like at the end of the season. And so right now your team might be doing well or it might not be doing well. You might want to make moves. And certain players might be performing extremely well. Certain players might be underperforming. Everything is different. But what it all is going to come down to in terms of making playoffs and then winning playoffs is what somebody asked earlier. What's the rest of the season look like? And what you have to look at is you have to look at your schedule, right? You have to look at your players' schedules and you have to look at the players who've performed well to this point in time. Is this repeatable for another cycle or two? And so when I'm looking at playoff schedules, and what I mean by sell high here is a lot of these players, all these players here, right? David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Marvin Harrison Jr. They all have been playing decently well. Maybe you could debate Marvin Harrison's not been playing as well, but last week he played well, right? If he plays well again this week, he looks good. But if you look ahead in their season, you got to see, is this a schedule that I want to run for my fantasy playoffs? So let's go to David Montgomery first, right? And we go to Detroit Lions and we go to their schedule, right? And we look at the last 5 or 6 games of the season, and they're playing, taking out the last game because most finals don't end on the last game, right? You got the Vikings, you got the Steelers, you got the Rams, you got the Cowboys, you got the Packers. And, you know, some of these defenses are a little tougher. So I don't know if I want to be playing a running back who makes his money off of scoring touchdowns against like a Vikings defense, right? Against a Rams defense. Steelers have been kind of questionable, but they've typically had a good run defense. Do I want to be playing these players, going into the playoffs and everything? 2 weeks before the playoffs, they play the Eagles, right? Play the Giants, play the Packers. So those are very tough games going into the playoffs. I don't know if I want to be relying on David Montgomery. And so right now he's running back number 15, just like how Roy and I have been talking. It's like, because they have high value now, and especially if they have a good week this week, can you sell them high for a person who has a better strength of schedule for the end of the season, right? So right now, when we're looking at trades and we're looking at our players, I think it's important to not only look at how do I consolidate my players into better ones, right? But if I've had very good performing players, is this repeatable over the rest of the season? What do the matchups look like in the most important games of the season? Oh my goodness, DeVonta Smith almost broke free for a touchdown. See, that would have been the upside we're talking about for DeVonta Smith. Yeah. So, is it possible hey, James says, is it possible for us to share a team player composition with you? Thoughts for guidance? Um, yeah, of course you can share. Sorry for the question. Dude, don't be sorry. Your questions help me as well, so I appreciate it. Yeah, you can share your teams with me if you want. And I could look at matchups, right? We could look at that together. We could look at who you're thinking of starting, or trades. I think those are the main big things that people have questions about, right? Who do I start? Who do I keep rest of the season, or who do I trade? So yeah, I definitely, you can, send your team over, and I can help look at it, and just let me know what you're thinking, right? And what I mean by that is like, oh, I'm in um a 3-2 record, right? And here's my team, and I've been having to debate too much between my wide receiver two because of these three players. What should I do, right? Or I'm 5-0, but I'm looking to consolidate and get this. So yeah, go ahead and share your team, and definitely be willing to help answer any questions. So okay, so we went through David Montgomery's playoff schedule as an example. I think we can walk through one more here, right? So, DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift has been pretty solid this year, right? DeAndre Swift's been uh, maybe not a running back one, but a serviceable running back two, or flex position, depending on the week or depending on your roster build. But he's been pretty good, right? But when you look at the end of the season, the end of the Bears season goes, uh, you know, scratch the last week, but the week before last, the 49ers, then before that, the Packers, before that, the Browns, before that, the Packers again, before that, the Eagles. So the last 5 weeks, DeAndre Swift is playing like the best run defenses possible. So this is a perfect example of what I mean by you need to sell high, right? Or you don't need to, but I would be looking at selling high in these type of dynamics, right? If he plays well this week and he scores a touchdown, or he gets good usage, he's gonna look high value in somebody's eyes, and I would be looking to swap him. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to swap these players this week or next week, but it's just to keep in mind that, every week that goes by, you're getting closer and closer to the playoffs. People are going to be becoming probably less and less likely to trade. So pick your spots, right? If David Montgomery has a bad week this week, but then has a good week next week, ride that momentum. So just watch them based off of what their scores are, their value is comparatively to what you can get for them. Okay, so James said your team's Josh Allen, Ibuka, Drake London, RJ Harvey, Derrick Henry, Omarion Hampton. Okay, so you're locked and loaded at quarterback. You got 2 solid wide receivers. Right now, you were looking good with Omarion Hampton and Derrick Henry, but Hampton is out. So we now just got to look at the bench. So let me see if I could piece together the rest. So you traded low for Lad. Okay. Okay, so then that's perfect because he fills in as your maybe a flex since you have 2 solid wide receivers, or when Ibuka goes on bye, you have Lad. You have Woody Marks and Bayshall Tootin. Kendrick Bourne. Who's the rest of your team, James? I'm trying to piece it together from these previous messages. Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne. Rashi Rice, is that yours or is that somebody else's? That'd be my question. But yeah, you have Ibuka and Drake London, so you don't really have to think about that. It just looks like without Omarion Hampton, you're struggling for a second running back. And then I wonder who you're flexing. But yeah, let me know. Drop it in the chat. And then finally, let's look at Marvin Harrison Jr.'s schedule just to really walk through this exercise one last time, right? So he has a nice matchup in the final week against the Bengals, but before that, he has the Falcons, the Texans, the Rams, the Bucks, the Jags, and the 49ers. So some of these are pretty difficult matchups. So again, that's why I would look at trading on Marvin Harrison if he has another good week. Lad, Trey Benson, Rashad White, Woody Marks, Lamar Jackson. Whoa. So you have Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen? One WB. It's a 1 quarterback league and you have 2. Okay. So what you're probably looking to do is you're gonna need some type of running back depth for rest of season. What's your record, by the way? So 4-1 record. Yeah. Yeah, you are weak at running back. So yeah. What you're looking to do is you're looking to get solid running backs to go with this team. And you're in a 10-team league, okay? So in a 10-team league, the tight end position and the quarterback position have a higher premium on it than the other positions because there is more depth at running back and wide receiver in a 10-team league because there's 2 less teams, right? So that means that there's like 6 positions because, 2 running backs, 2 flex, 2 wide receivers that have to go into a 12-team league. So there's a little bit more abundance of wide receivers and running backs compared to a 12-team league. So that means that in the 10-team league, and especially because in the quarterback position and the tight end position, there's typically only like 6-ish. There's sorry, started looking off camera. There's typically only 6-ish quarterbacks and tight ends that are top tier, right? So when you look at the top tier running backs and the top tier wide receivers, you're typically looking at the top 10 to 12 to call it a running back 1 or a running back or a wide receiver 1. Quarterbacks, it's kind of like the top 6, right? And tight ends, it's very similar. That typically after the first 5-ish, 6-ish positions, there's a steeper drop off. So that means that those top 5 positions hold more value in that league, right? So, in your league, right? Your league, you are in a 10-team league, and since you have both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, you could basically think of those guys as an RB1 or a wide receiver 1 for your trade value. Since you're weak at running back, right? You could basically look at trading Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, whoever you don't want more, right? They're pretty much equal. They're very close. Because Josh Allen is injured right now, he might have a slightly lower value, but because he performed so well at the beginning of the year, they're both kind of 1A and 1B. Okay? So, it doesn't really do you any good to hold both of these guys. What's going to service you more is if you could trade one of these guys for your running back depth, right? And you're not going to get Jonathan Taylor. You're not going to get Jamar Gibbs, right? You're not going to get Bijan Robinson for Josh Allen. But let's say you are trading Josh Allen. And again, it could be Lamar Jackson, right? If we pull up the running backs and we look around that running back 12-ish mark, right? So we got, wait, let me see. Let me make sure I go to points. I almost went off of draft. I didn't go off of scoring leaders. So I have to go off scoring leaders, running backs. Okay, so if we look at like number 12, so Jonathan, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? So in this range, you probably could be targeting guys like Travis Etienne, Kyron Williams, Cam Skattebo, maybe Ashton Genty because people might be low on him, right? But since you start one quarterback, right, you don't need both. Oh, wait, typo? Your league is a one quarterback league only because they're the highest ranked players available at your draft spot. Yeah. So we're going down the same page, right? Since you only need to start one of them, I would trade one of them, right? I would trade Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Whatever one you don't want. Oh, you have 3 flex. Okay, so then you might want some depth if you have 3 flex then. So what you could do is you could trade Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen for a premier running back like Travis Etienne, right? Somebody around, running back 10 range. Quinshon Judkins, maybe somebody like that. Or you can try to target 2 uh like lower mid running back twos. And these could be people like Jalen Warren, right? Alvin Kamara, Chuba Hubbard, Tony Pollard, Brees Hall, and, and and you could try to target two of them. So right now your value on your team is that quarterback. And then you have Pearsall. Yeah, that's what I would do. I would determine which quarterback you want, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, and then try to flip them for, since you have 3 flexes, I would try to flip them for 2 solid players. Maybe you might have to throw in uh like Woody Marks or something like that, but you would be like packaging, like, let's say Lamar Jackson and Woody Marks for something like Jalen Warren and Chase Brown, or uh, you know, uh, Jalen Warren and Chuba Hubbard, or Alvin Kamara and Tony Pollard. Like two RB2s. You Quinchon, like Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt and Brees Hall for Lamar Jackson and Woody Marks or something like that. Because with 3 flex positions, you're not going to necessarily want to target the highest caliber players, but instead, because you're until you get Trey Benson and all these guys back, you're so thin, you're going to want to develop out those flex positions as well as your running back depth, in order to have that full roster where more positions than not, you already know who you're playing. I hope that makes sense, James. Let me know if that helps or not, but go ahead and look at, some potential trade targets. What you're looking for is teams in your league who are leaving points on the bench, right? Like, let's say they're leaving DK Metcalf on the bench, right? Jalen Warren on the bench. They're leaving Jordan Mason on the bench, something like that, where you could use those running backs. Those are the teams that you're trying to target. And if they're playing really crappy quarterbacks, right? Like they're streaming quarterbacks every week, and they have that depth, then Lamar Jackson would look appealing to them. But go ahead and look at that, and let me know if you see anything. So Roy says, do I think Tracy takes reps from Skattebo as the weeks go on and he's healthier? That is so hard. I personally, just watching Skattebo, he looks so much better than Tyrone Tracy. He just looks like he should be the number 1. And then Tyrone Tracy kind of just, he hasn't looked good. So if they were smart, I think they would, give Cam the majority share, but I could foresee something like a 60-40 split, where if let's say there's 30 touches in a week, 30 runs, maybe it's like something like a 18-12 split, where Skattebo, gets the majority share. I do think they are going to at least try to figure something out to use both, but I do see Skattebo maintaining the lion's share, like maintaining the bigger chunk of things, just because how he's performed so well with the opportunities he's had. But hopefully that helped you, Roy. Let me know what you're thinking. Yo, Gary, how are you? 12-man PPR. You got Herbert, Dart. I think that's Jonathan Taylor, Ashton Genty, Henderson, Vidal, Rice, Sutton, Ted McMillan, Jordan Mason. Who's T? Joe Mixon? Do you trade Genty and Sutton for Gibbs? Oy. That's a lot. That's a lot. I don't know if I would do that. I have Gibbs and I know Mason Taylor. Okay. Oh, not Jordan Mason. Duh. Not Jordan Mason. No, it's okay. It's okay. Um okay, so Mason Taylor. Okay. Do you trade Genty and Sutton for Gibbs? That's a lot. I have Gibbs and he's so good, but Genty has upside too. And Sutton is like a borderline wide receiver one. What is he on the year? He's like Cortland Sutton is the wide receiver 11 in half PPR. You said you're in PPR, so what is he in PPR? In PPR, he's Cortland Sutton's the number 10 wide receiver in PPR. So you're giving up a wide receiver 1 and a running back 1 for a running back 1. Gibbs is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, Ashton Genty is barely outside. He's, basically running back 12. I think you're giving up way too much. Like, I get the idea of consolidation, but I think Sutton's too much, you know? Um I think it's more reasonable to do something like Genty plus, I don't know, Vidal, Genty plus Mixon, Genty plus, if you don't want Genty, right? Genty plus, I would even do Genty plus Tet over Sutton. Um, I believe in Tet. I have Tet too, but if you look at the offense of Denver versus the offense of Carolina, Denver definitely looks like it's going to be a more consistent offense for Sutton to score than Tet to score. I just think you're giving up a lot to do that. So I would lean more towards, because if the idea is to get rid of Genty because you just don't like him, um, and you want Gibbs because you like him, um, I think you're giving up too much with Sutton. So I would do either like Henderson or Tetaroa or yeah, yeah. Um, I hope that makes sense. Or maybe one of the quarterbacks. Um, so sorry, I thought you were trying to get Gibbs because you wanted Gibbs. Um, I think I think let's see. So I mean, who so it, who are you rolling out wide receivers? You're rolling out Sutton and Tetaroa right now, and then you're gonna roll out Rice and Sutton, or do you have a wide receiver that you left off this list? Because like honestly, rolling Jonathan Taylor plus Ashton Genty is not bad for your running backs. Sutton Tet this week, Hendy flex. It's a 3 wide receiver league. Okay, then in your case, I would instead of doing, wait, 3 wide receivers. So it's a 3 wide receiver league, or you start 2 wide receivers. Um, no, okay, okay, it's 2. So like, I don't think you're like, if you look at it, Genty is your running back 2, and Genty as a running back 2 is tremendous upside. So I wouldn't try to consolidate players to move off of Genty just because he hasn't been doing well, because he has the upside. Even though he's been scoring poorly, he's scoring in that range of a reasonable running back too. I don't know how, but I'm 1-4. So I think what you're missing is you were missing like like wide receiver depth. But Rice is going to come back. So Rice plus Sutton are solid wide receivers. So now you're just looking at your flex, right? Which between Tedero will probably be good. I think your quarterback situation is kind of questionable for me. I liked Herbert at the beginning of the season, but I haven't liked what he's been doing recently. It's been going in a negative direction. Jaxson Dart could be good, but it could be hit or miss. Um, if anything, you might be able to package like Genty, um, plus like let's say Genty plus. I don't know actually. I don't know if I would do that. There's a there's got to be a way where if you're looking for flex depth, because like essentially what I'm looking at your team is you have locked and loaded running back 1, running back 2. When Rice comes back, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. But then your flex is a little questionable because Tedero and McMillan hasn't been living up to standard. So I now I'm thinking this out loud. I think the question becomes is like, do you believe that Tedero and McMillan will be able to turn things around with Bryce Young? And if so, then he's a very solid flex and you wouldn't have to do anything. But then if you're worried about Tet, I would try to package something together where I could maybe downgrade either Genty into a little weaker of a running back, but then get a depth piece in addition to it, right? So like if I could do Genty and Tetaroa and then get like J.K. Dobbins plus Michael Pittman, something where I have not necessarily the upside, but then I have the more solid flex. So the question for me, Gary, for your team eventually comes down to is if you're 1-4, do you believe in Tetaroa? Do you believe in Herbert or Dart to turn that around? Because it is a solid roster if they can turn it around. But if you don't believe that, and because you're 1-4 and need to make a move, I would try to break up the value of Genty into a more solid running back 2 and then a depth piece for your flex. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if there's any teams in mind that could do that, and what you would be looking for is the exact opposite, right? You'd be looking for somebody who has depth pieces, like on their bench they might have 2 or 3 usable pieces, but they don't have that solid Genty that they're trying to place into their lineup. Hopefully that helps. Let me know what you think. Okay, James said amazing help. I really appreciate thoughts. I also have Mason Taylor on my team. Would you play him this week over Kendrick Bourne at that flex position? I don't remember, James, if you said you were a tight end premium league, but the only reason I would play Mason Taylor over Kendrick Bourne is if it was a tight end premium. So, like, for example, you got a full point PPR for Mason Taylor, but then it was 0 points for wide receivers, right? But otherwise, I would play Kendrick Bourne at the flex just because of how he did last week, and they're gonna need some potential there. So okay, Gary says you do. Okay. Okay, let me know. Let me know what you think, Gary. So Roy said I offered someone QJ and Monty, and they said they're either willing to give either Sutton, McMillan, Kenneth Walker, and Chase Brown. I would take Sutton and Kenneth Walker. I would take Sutton and Kenneth Walker in that trade. I don't know if you view Kenneth Walker as more solid than David Montgomery, but I think Sutton versus Quentin Johnson, right? Sutton is a more to me reliable option since he's the number 1 option, clear-cut number 1 option in his offense, and just as discussed, he is performing in that wide receiver 1 range. And then Kenneth Walker, even though he unfortunately splits touches with Charbonnet. That offense wants to run the ball, and I do see him as the 1A on that. Chase Brown, I think, is a swing for the fence option. With Flacco, maybe things could change, but he, even on his best week, it was what? Because he had 7 receptions for 21 yards. It's not like he's doing anything. So I'd out of those 4, I would want Kenneth Walker and Cortland Sutton. Hopefully that helps, Roy. Let me know, Gary. And then the Smitty, you told people Dart was gonna get a hit stick with all that running. What happened? Did he get hurt? Did he get hurt? Am I missing something? Oh man, the Giants scored 27 points. Oh no. Jaxson Dart got hurt. I see Russell Wilson throwing footballs on the side. Oh, he's running. Oh, and then he falls on his knee and the side of his leg. Ouch. Ooh, oh no. So Jaxson Dart. Oh man, that's the danger with running quarterbacks, huh? Perfect Q. Well, Roy, hopefully that helped you. Appreciate you. Let me know if anything else. All right. So, what is going on? I turned away. So, all right. It is. It is Jalen Hurts. Took Dallas Goddard. He ran it in. Jalen Hurts. Saquon's got 60 yards. Jaxson Dart's got 1 touchdown. Oh, Cam Skattebo's got 2 touchdowns. That's how they had it. Oh man. Okay. So I was totally missing it, but for the Philly side, Hurts, Goddard, and Hurts again got the touchdowns. And then on the Giants side, Jaxson Dart finding Wan'Dale Robinson for the touchdown. That was 1. And then we had the boy Cam Skattebo running it in twice for the touchdown. So he got 2 touchdowns. So Philly is down 10 to the 1-4 Giant. Trap game. Who bet on Philly? Vegas must be making a lot of money off this. Roy says, I turn on post notification whenever you go live. It's been a pleasure seeing you. It's been a pleasure with you too, brother. Have a good night. I'll see you Sunday. I will see you Sunday. It's good chatting with you. Wish you luck this week. See you, bro. Thanks, Roy. All right. At least Jaxson Dart got off the field on his own strength and power. He's going into the medical tent. So we shall see what happens there. They're running the football for about 2 yards. So 27-17, the Giants are beating the Eagles. No one could believe that this was gonna turn out like this. And we got Russell Wilson under center right now, taking over because Jaxson Dart got hurt. So we shall see Russell Wilson taking over on the 42-yard line with 3rd and 9. Guy in motion. Drop him back. Here we go. Nope. Guy back in motion again. And play clock at 0. Snap is off. Pass is fired straight into the ground. Oh, what was that, bro? And now they're just showing the crowd booing him. They're just showing the crowd booing Russell Wilson. Oh my goodness. What was that? He just threw the ball straight into the ground. Oh my goodness. That was terrible. That was straight terrible. Oh, it's not a tight end premium league, James? Okay, yeah, then I would play Bourne, but you're welcome. You're welcome. Appreciate you too. Appreciate you too. All right. So we got Philly taking over on their own 10-yard line. So we shall see what they can come up with. Oh, they're evaluating Jaxson for a concussion. All right, so 17-27. Here we go. Philadelphia with the ball on their own 12-yard line. DeVonta Smith in motion. High snap, pat handoff to Barkley, going nowhere. Going nowhere. All right. Let's see. So the Eagles have 4 points. Let me update that. Their defense got 4 points. All right, 2nd and 10 for the Eagles. Shotgun formation. Guy in motion. High snap. Barkley tackle for a loss of like 2. Man, that is unfortunate. That is very unfortunate. The Eagles not looking good right now. Not looking good. 2 handoffs, going nowhere, going backwards. So it's going to be a 3rd down for the Eagles. It's going to be a 3rd down for the Eagles. So it's the end of the 3rd quarter, so we shall see when we get back. When we get back, let's see. Is there any final questions? Any final questions? Any final questions in chat? All right. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, appreciate it, James. Just a like, and the comments are all good. Just follow me on YouTube here, and I'll be here before games. I appreciate you, contributing with anything you can, a like, subscribe, things like that. And if you want to check out my channel, my website's on the channel there too. If you wanna check that out. But I just appreciate the questions and engagement. This is my hobby. So this is my hobby. I'd like to have fun with this and have fun with you guys. So just appreciate all the likes, all the comments, and if you want to support, you can check out the website on the channel. But just appreciate you guys. It's fun to talk this football. So thank you so much. Let's be on for a bit longer. Feel free to drop any other thoughts or questions. Let's see. I went over everything on this sheet. Let me highlight the other sheets real quick before for anything. So I also have, what is it? Oops, wrong one. Wrong one. This is what I was looking for. Okay, we'll go over this as soon as this third down's over for the Eagles. DeVonta Smith in motion, shotgun, Hurts backed up into his own end zone, scrambling, firing to Barkley underneath. Barkley trying to make some moves for the first down, but he's short. So 4th down and about 3, they'll probably punt it. All right, so what are we looking at here? So these are the first 5-week results, and I have both stock up and stock down. Not necessarily meaning you need to go out of the way to trade for these players or anything, but this is just something to note in case you have these players, potentially targeting these players, or whatnot. So quarterbacks, Dak Prescott is on fire these past 2 weeks. So I would be firing up players on his team, and firing Dak Prescott up. When CeeDee Lamb comes back, it looks like things will be in motion. So with the defense of Dallas being extremely poor, I don't foresee this slowing down. So I think you could start Dak Prescott with confidence moving forward, and pretty much, hit the key players on that Dallas team. Tight ends. We've been talking about Mason Taylor a few times today. He's been having some positive games, especially these past few weeks, and this has been with Justin Fields. It wasn't with Tyrus Taylor, it was with Justin Fields. And so I think that's a pretty good sign of confidence that Mason Taylor will be used. All they have in that offense is Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. So they could, but they need another option out there. So the tight end position is very thin. So Mason Taylor is somebody who could be rostered. Taking a break real quick to watch this Giants drive. It looks like Jaxson Dart's okay, past the concussion protocol, so he's back in. It was a scare because when he went down, I thought it was his legs. They took him in for a concussion, it looked like, but he came out passing the protocol. So everybody in New York's probably happy that he's back on the field. Very surprising game, though. Nobody would have ever guessed Philadelphia down. Nobody would have ever guessed that. D Money, how are you? You just got offered Genty for CD. Should you take it? Which side of the trade are you? Are you receiving Genty or CD? Is this PPR? Are you in a winning roster? Like, what does your roster buildup look like? Without knowing the rest of the dynamics of the team, it's kind of hard for me to say, because, like, for example, I think CD is the better player in this option, especially if it's PPR. But if you're giving up Genty and then you're going to be playing like Tyrone Tracy and your running back, I would not do it, right? But if you have solid running backs, I would do it. So D Money, let me know what a little bit more detail on like the starters in your roster build, so that I have an idea of what you would be doing. I think CD, if everything else were the same, right? Like you had equal running backs, equal wide receivers as value, then I'd be okay. I would want CD in this trade. It just depends though on who, like what the rest of your roster is, because if you're taking negatives in other places to get CD, I wouldn't do that. I hope that makes sense, but let me know a little bit more of your roster and hopefully that could help. All right, so on this stock up chart, we went over quarterbacks and tight ends. Wide receiver, Stephon Diggs. I think he's somebody that you can pretty much start with confidence now. His slow start was due to his injuries. It looks like he has that connection with Drake May now, and it's not just because he's getting touchdowns, right? He's getting ample targets, ample receptions, and ample yardage. So I foresee him as somebody that you should be able to start at least in the flex position, if not your wide receiver too. Moving forward. in terms of running backs, we were all waiting for Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt to take off, and last week he finally did. The one signal I was waiting for was, through his other weeks, it wasn't like he was getting the dominant usage and role. And finally, last week, he did get that. So while his stock is up because it is only 1 week, but it was with the starting quarterback, Jaden Daniels, you can start him this week with confidence. However, for the rest of the season, confidence, I would look at his touches again, and I would just make sure that he is getting the dominant share. So if there is 30 touches in the backfield, you would want the split to be something like he gets 15 and then the other two get like 8 and 7, right? Because they're rotating like 3 backs right now. So I do believe he is going to get the lion's share, but that is just one thing to watch. In terms of stock going down, to round this out, final things to kind of pay attention to. So we were talking a bit about the Carolina Panthers earlier, and the reason I'm down on them is actually Bryce Young himself. The offensive line, too, doesn't look like they're giving him much time. But if you just look at his actual performance versus his projections, he's underperformed every week. And it's not just by a little bit, it's a lot. So if you take out that positive game, he's basically underperforming by 5 points a game, which is a lot. And the quarterback basically runs the whole offense, right? So because he's down, I was up on Tedero McMillan, but at the beginning of the year, but now I'm a little shaky just because I am not sure of what Bryce Young would do. So D Money here says, before we move on to the next position, he says, roster stacked. You have Lamb. Okay, so you have Lamb. You have Wilson. You have Ibuka and St. Brown. Your running back are Taylor, Judkins, and Kyron. Wow. In this case, and I assume this is a 2 wide receiver, 2 running back league and 1 flex. And if so, as long as it's not like 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, and a flex, or 2 flex, my thought for you would be, instead of going for another running back, how's your other positions? Like, how's the tight end and the quarterback? Because I mean, like you said, you're already so deep that you're basically just going from 4 awesome wide receivers and 3 awesome running backs to 4 awesome running backs and 3 awesome wide receivers. So it's like you're switching from one hand to the other. So I don't necessarily know if I like that, but dude, how did you get this? Are you in like a 18 league or something? And then yeah, I'd be curious if you are looking at trades, like, instead of racking up the bench or all positions filled out, like your quarterback and your tight end. That would be my thought on this. But let me know, D Money. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. So your quarterbacks. Oh, it's an 8 team. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, bro, this is insanely stacked. Okay, so your quarterbacks are Mayfield, Herbert, and May. Your tight end is McBride. Okay, so then what I would do, my thought here, instead of trading Lamb for a running back, I'm wondering, I know Mayfield is 5-0 so far. Great job. High five. Honestly, I would leave it alone, right? If you're 5-0, I would leave it alone. But, the only potential thing I could see is that when you're in the 8-team leagues, every position or point matters more and more, right? So as you go from 12-team leagues to 10-team leagues to 8-team leagues, the quarterback and the tight end position matter more and more and more because each position requires a positional advantage because everybody has stacked running backs and wide receivers, right? So since you already have stacked running backs and wide receivers and you have one wide receiver to spare, I like is Lamar Jackson out of the question for getting a trade or Josh Allen, right? You have McBride, so your tight end is already solid. Mayfield is solid, don't get me wrong. So like he's solid. But in terms of the positional advantage, right? There is a positional advantage of having let's say Josh Allen as opposed to Baker Mayfield. So that's the only what's it called? Oh, interception. I missed it. Interception. We have in an interception. We got what's his name? Mr. Jalen Hurts throwing the football to the other team. I saw that one out of the corner of my eye. But yeah, that's my thought for you, D Money, is if you're 5-0, leave it alone. But if you were to make a trade, I would look more so at that quarterback position. Not necessarily because Mayfield is bad, but because you have like the number ones in every single position besides the quarterback. That's all I would think of. You're welcome. Appreciate you, brother. If you could drop a like, anything helps, but appreciate you asking the questions. All right. We got a few more things to go over as I wrap this up. So Bryce Young is going down. Juwan Johnson, there's a lot of reason to keep playing him. A lot of reason to keep him. I am just a little worried because not only is his performance going down, but the Saints have loved Taysom Hill for his entire career. They have like 3 or 4 tight ends that they're trying to put into rotation. And while Johnson's probably the best catching one, it's just how much time can we see him on the field? So I dropped him this week. Maybe I'll regret it. But what I can say is that there seems to be some potential with these guys like Mason Taylor, Theo Johnson, that maybe, Juwan Johnson might not be worth holding. I think this is his last week from this slide to see whether or not he rebounds or if his usage just stays down. In terms of Jerry Jeudy and the wide receivers, now Cleveland just has too many mouths to feed. They got, 2 tight ends. They got Jeudy. Cedric Tillman will eventually come back. There's so many people. They're gonna just rely on Judkins. They're trying to get Dylan Gabriel under his feet, but I don't see any upside to having Jeudy. Every week he's been underperforming, and he's really honestly not even had high expectations these last 2 games of 8 points and 9 points, and he can't even hit those. So he's underperforming by 5 points a game right now. It's just not looking good. So I would be okay moving off of Jerry Jeudy. And finally, for the running backs situation, I got Alvin Kamara here. As mentioned earlier, he is also underperforming every week. His expectations are starting to go down. They're starting to work in Kendre Miller more and more. I would just be cautious of him. And if he has a solid game, and maybe you could sell him on his name value, I'd be looking to move off of him. if I could. He just looks slow. He doesn't look like somebody who's gonna be winning you a fantasy week or winning you a fantasy championship. It looks almost more like, desperation flex plays. So that's what I got for there. It looks like they just got a pass interference call in the end zone. So the Giants are on the one, running it up the middle. This is Skattebo with the third touchdown. Is that what I see here? Holy smokes. He got the hat trick. Cam Skattebo. 3 touchdowns against the Eagles. Wow. Wow. There was a lot of people who probably sat Skattebo this week just because of the news of Tyrone Tracy and then the Eagles defense. But holy smokes. 3 touchdowns in a game. That is crazy. That is crazy. All right. I am going to be signing off soon. Looks like most of everybody's questions got answered. Feel free to drop any last minute questions in the chat. I think I went over all the material that I was planning on reviewing today. And it looks like this game is starting to, I mean, we can never say it's over, right? But it's 3 possession game. So it would take a lot for the Eagles to win this. But yeah, let me know any last questions before I sign off. Really appreciate everybody's questions so far. Wow, but after a 4-0 start to the season and the Eagles looking undefeatable with the tush push, they now have had 2 losses in a row unexpectedly. Nobody thought they would lose these games, but it's possible that they now just lose 2 in a row. And if they lose 2 in a row, we know AJ Brown is going to be making some noise. You know, I don't know what it is, but in terms of yardage, it looks like he's doing good, but very curious on what's going on with Saquon. Oh, Aaron has a comment before I go. Someone's offering you James Cook for Jamar Chase and Tony Pollard. What do I think? What's the rest of your roster build look like? Because if you are solid at wide receiver, no, I actually don't like this. I'm trying to talk myself into it, but you're giving up a lot. James Cook, if you have no running backs and you have like, oh, I have Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, JSN, and you have like 4 top caliber wide receivers, and giving away Jamar Chase is gonna feel like nothing to you, and you need the running back, then yeah, I could see this being somewhat fair. The person giving up Jamar Chase and Tony Pollard is definitely giving up more. But for certain teams, it could fit. It just depends on what your team looks like and needs. So your running backs are Pollard, Chase Brown, Travion Henderson. Receivers, you got Chase, Tet, Odunze, Diggs, Ladd, and Addison. Okay. So yeah, you definitely want a running back. So I think James Cook is a very solid running back to have, running back 1 or 2. But I think you're giving up a lot. So this person won't take James Cook straight up for Jamar Chase? Because that's in itself should be pretty close, I feel like. Because if you're able to keep Tony Pollard, then you have another running back um, to float through. I feel like value wise, James Cook for Jamar Chase is more even and close. Um, he says he wants a replacement. Okay, so if he wants a replacement, then you give Tony Pollard, and then you should be able to get a replacement for yours then too, right? So James Cook plus something, even if it's you know a high upside nothing position. Um, I feel like if he's looking for a replacement, it should be fair for you to get something because otherwise, this is a pretty lopsided thing. I'm not saying it can't work, but you're gonna get James Cook, but then you're you're downgrading um your the upside of your receivers, right? Like you're basically throwing Diggs in there for uh Jamar Chase. Thanks so much. You just didn't know how Chase was going to do with Joe being out most of the season. Yeah, they just threw another curveball in there playing Joe Flacco, right? Everybody always says Joe Flacco's great for fantasy, but they don't have an offensive line, the Bengals. So you have to have a scramble lane quarterback, and Joe Flacco doesn't do that. Um, so I don't know if that's an upgrade or not. But, Jamar Chase, he should be able to score and he should be able to uh do well. But in your specific case, you do need a running back. And if you can get James Cook plus something for Jamar Chase plus Tony Pollard, I think it's a reasonable trade. Because I think you're fine rolling out like Odunze plus Diggs rather than Odunze plus Chase, and then changing that second running back from like Travion Henderson or Chase Brown into James Cook. I think you're going to come out ahead on top there. I hope that makes sense, Aaron. But let me know. Let me know. All right. So we got second and third. Jalen Hurts dropping back, looking deep, throwing up the middle, finding his man. Dallas Goedert just catching footballs. Dallas Goedert catching footballs. You're welcome. You're welcome, Aaron. Appreciate you. If you could drop a like before you go, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you, and let me know. I'll be here before games Monday, Thursday, Sunday. The Smitty says Goddard. I know, bro. He's racking up so many points. Oh, is that a fumble? No way. He had to be down, right? Oh, they called it a fumble? No way. Yeah, Smitty. Oh, thanks you too, James. See you next stream as well. Oh man, Dylan making the fumble. Oh, he did. He fumbled it. Oh man. Oh my god. Its game is over. This game is over. Giants are going to win this. Well, anybody else have any last questions? I'll stay on for 30 seconds longer for any last questions, but this game seems to be iced. Any last questions before signing off? For the Giants. It's been a great game for the Giants.
LOL. I shouldn't be laughing at their misery, but I am not a fan of the tush push, so whatever. Whatever. Oh my goodness. Can't believe the Giants are about to take on the Eagles. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That is crazy. That is crazy. And I can't believe Cam Skattebo has 3 touchdowns. That is crazy. How many points does he have? How many points does he have? Let me see this. Oh man. The guy benched him in my league. Who'd he bench him for? Oh, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Oh man. 24 points on the bench. That's tragic. That is tragic. Oh man. Oh, AJ Brown at least is getting. What does he have? He has 6 receptions on 80 yards on 9 targets. All right, well, he's at least getting all those targets, so you can't complain. Cannot complain there. All right. Well, everybody, let's look at this last drive as maybe the last one of the night. They ruled it a fumble on the field. So turned it over. That's the story of Philly today. Turning it over on the night. All right, so the Giants probably just going to run it up the gut 3 plays, try to drain the clock. Skattebo breaking free for a first down. Man, this guy should get the game ball tonight. This guy should get the game ball tonight. Oh man, Skattebo. Wow. Just wow. 1st and 10. Hand off again to Skattebo. He found another gaping hole, and he's got another first down. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. They got this. Well, maybe there's no more trading for Cam Skattebo after this game. Holy smokes. I don't think anybody's going to be able to move them off him. Oh man, AJ Brown and DeVonta Smith on the sideline, hands over their mouth, looking like they talking smack to each other, like they gotta pass us the ball more, man. Okay, looks like this game is over. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. I'll be here 30 minutes before the London kickoff, so that would be 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern before the London game. Remember to set your lineups for that. Drop a like below if you can. Appreciate everybody who watched. We'll see y'all